Hi everyone, welcome. I'm Aurora. This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. Technically, this is level 1, lesson 10. That is about flying rainbow lasagna and DNA. I will get into that shortly, but first, triumphant fanfare. Very, very excited to officially announce that I'm getting everybody together for my Ojai dance retreat. It's going to be May 3rd through the 8th. I'm checking my calendar to make sure that I'm not misspeaking because it's always so easy to make mistakes. Yeah, sorry, I said it wrong because I'm so happy I checked myself. May 5th through the 8th. So it's Monday, May 5th through the 8th, and that is 4 days and 3 nights. And so you know what? I have a little PDF that is prepared by my wonderful organizer. Let me just do a little share screen so I can just scroll through this with you and just show you a couple of beautiful things. First of all, let me take care of this. So this is wonderful. More students are coming into the meeting. Good. This is from a photo shoot that Cheeky and I did. It was actually for a dog calendar. So I was actually the second, second in command. Cheeky was in command for this. So yeah, that the mountains in the background are, and especially the quality of the light. That's beautiful, Ojai. So I want you guys to be able to see that. And then I want you to be able to see, I know I'm scrolling fast, these are some images from the previous retreat that I did in Sedona, but we'll do something similar. We won't have a deck, but we will have a patio to dance upon. And this is some of our amazing food and moments that we shared at the previous retreats, but I want to show you, this is where we're going to have the current retreat. It's this beautiful place called Blue Iguana Inn. And then this is, if for people who want to do camping, we do have the option available. This is Camp Comfort. They're both about 2 miles away from where I live. So they're really, really beautiful, unique spaces. Oh, you have to mute yourself. If you just came into the meeting, please mute yourself. We can hear you. Mute yourself. Okay, I'm going to have to stop share and do it. Got it. Back to what I was doing. Really beautiful and unique. What we did was got 2 bungalows, which are like these little houses that are freestanding houses that each can sleep about 3 people, and then a central house that is called Hacienda House. And that's, I know I'm scrolling fast, that's this right here. So that's what I wanted to show you. It's actually a really, really beautiful space that has the feeling of very homey, like this is not just like a hotel or anything like that. It's really a lovely inn. And so this is where we'll be having all of our meals and doing a lot of our, socializing, community building, chatting, sharing of ideas. And you can see there's a really beautiful outdoor patio with this beautiful stone fireplace. And then there's a more interior private patio where I will put down comfortable floor coverings and we'll be doing our flying rainbow lasagna dance there. So that's one of the things I wanted to be able to share with you. Really, really beautiful, unique space, because a big part of what I'm intending to do is when I bring people together, have a beautiful community, a real sense of friendship and sharing and being able to be your true self, share ideas that you're passionate about, and then hopefully uplift other people. That is very much what I felt from the previous 2 events that I did last year in Sedona. So these events that I create for people have many layers to them. Some of the layer is what I just described, social emotional, which is where you're a person in the world and of course you want to connect with other people, make friendships, like hug people. You will hug my dog. She loves people, and everybody who goes to these retreats is always so happy to meet her. That's really important. Having that human connection is really important. And of course it would be worthy for us to be in each other's presence and be there in person and not just on a Zoom meeting, just generally. But it's much, much more than that. What we also do is encouraging each other's energy fields. Your energy field is everything that I teach about in this class. The force field, that is around your physical presence. So what we do is help to kind of get the group aloft in these flying rainbow lasagna activities. So like an ordinary day for me, if I'm here setting my own schedule in my own home, what I do is usually wake up with the sun as long as I've gotten enough sleep, do my sun gazing, get all of my solar energy inside, do my stretching and my pre-flight, and that's kind of usually eating a little cookie or a little muffin or whatever, and having a little bit of coffee, because you want to have like some energy to be able to do this, but not a giant meal. And then, because you can tell there's a lot of rolling, there's a lot of like activity, so it's something that you just wouldn't want to be full of a giant, solid meal for that, and also not too much liquid either. do the lasagna dance with lots and lots of music going on. Get out of reality, get out of your conscious daily waking intellect, move into higher levels of your supra consciousness and divine connection and just pure creativity, all right? And then come back into reality, but not from the same vector that you left, into a new and improved reality, then have a real breakfast and get going on the events of the day. So we're going to do something similar like that on all of the days that we are spending together. Oh, you gotta, no, mute yourself. Never. Because it interrupts my flow so much. So we're going to do that on all of the days of the retreat. But what I've also got planned are unique things that I can only do here in Ojai. So that's why this event is going to be here, which is my hometown, and you will be able to see my home. And of course, I would invite you as a guest, but I have even deeper motives, because you guys here can, in video world, can usually only see some of my artwork and not all the details. And of course, I do have a slideshow that's on my website, and you can always look at things that are photos of my artwork. It's not the same as when you see it in person. So a big motivation for me scheduling and creating this event was so that people could have a studio visit and actually see my real art pieces here. So I'm going to set up my home so that it's like a beautiful gallery space. It will be very clean. There will not be any sweaters on top of exercise equipment like you usually see in the background there. And I'll invite everybody in for an artist talk. You can see the actual pieces, hear what is special and unique about them, and find out a lot more about my process. We are also going to do a big, I would call it a public-facing lasagna. Like, we'll do a lot of private lasagnas at the inn and at a couple of places in nature that I'm still honing down exactly which one we will go to. Like, it's important for us to connect to the water that's here, and there's beautiful different areas where there are like rivers and small creeks and things like that. And also it's important for us to connect with the mineral elements of the land, like the rocks and the features. And so of course you also want to see what the world looks like here. I live in a very beautiful place where there are some mountains that have very beautiful striations, and Ojai is an energy vortex. So when you hear me talk about Sedona being a vortex, it's more than just esoteric energy. There are actual field lines that are a part of the geologic formation of the rocks and their magnetic qualities that are there. So it's both. It's things that can be measured scientifically and felt with the five senses. It's energy fields that you can feel with dowsing rods. And I had a wonderful experience with one of our retreat participants who went out in order to experience some of these vortexes out there in Sedona. We have at least one vortex here in Ojai, probably multiple smaller ones too. So it's when you do lasagna, and this actually does relate to the curriculum of what I'm teaching you in our intellectual sharing in a few moments as we get started today. When you do lasagna, what you're really doing is dancing with your DNA. So although yes, I dance with my physical body, I move my arms and my legs, that is the five senses visible outward manifestation of what I'm doing on a deep interior level, where with my DNA, I'm dancing in all sorts of wild, feral, unpredictability patterns. And so I'm going to teach you with your conscious intellect about those patterns and the process of doing that today. But that is like if I were to teach you with my words about playing the violin or playing the electric guitar, it's very different. Like, you would have a concept of it, but not the body knowledge of how to actually do it. So these gatherings are about also bringing up people's body knowledge, because you learn body stuff from other people's bodies. Like, if you want to learn to be an ice skater, you learn from watching someone else ice skate, or even in the gym, the personal coach demonstrates exercise and then you can mirror it with your own body. So that's why I have my Tuesday morning dance group, which again, there's no obligation or fee, because it's really a part of my mission to share that with people, but I keep it by invite only, because I only want people who are really like on the level, on the lasagna level, to be there doing this, because it involves some amount of esoteric expertise and also collaboration and camaraderie. Like, you got to be good to be in the band. So I just want to make sure that it's only positive people and not detractors. Everyone in this class is positive, and I have also the most beautiful comments in YouTube. So I very, very rarely face that type of what you would say is, like unwanted attention or trolling or things like that. That's who I'm really talking about. We have to have a positive lasagna immune system. And also, when I do lasagna, and I'll tell you about this in our intellectual sharing today, I always put up a protective force field that is called a merkaba. That's around myself as an individual and our activities as a group, because the key point is we're not merely flying through time like the way that a boat goes on the ocean. We are creating time. So we don't just respond to the larger waves or currents of energy and events that are happening in the worlds of quantum possibilities or waveform possibilities. We generate those waveforms, and we generate those waveforms by actually, I want to say, wiggling on a tiny microscopic level, dancing with your DNA on a tiny level. So as you're vibrating and dancing with your DNA on a tiny level, you are also transforming your larger energy field. You are also moving with your arms and your legs. That energy field connects to other people, plants and animals that are in your direct vicinity, and also non-locally, that are not in the same time place as you, but might be connected through space. They could be someplace far away or someplace in a different time, like far long ago or soon to be. So it's not just your dance partners are not just here in this moment now. Sometimes your dance partners are in the future, or future aspects of yourself, or even parallel lives or parallel reality structures. It's very wonderfully complex. In its most uplifted state, it's like having every single color in a very complex, paint box that you can use to paint anything that you want to paint. And what your paintbrush is, your paintbrush of the mind. Paintbrush of the mind, and also your DNA is a big part of your creative equipment or your tools for being able to do this dance, because as I teach to your intellect in this class all the time, your DNA is connected to the fabric of space-time. When your DNA does certain dances, it's not just about you and little old you and your life. Your life exists within a larger context of reality events and other people's lives. And also, all of this is non-arbitrary. All of this is profoundly meaningful and very, very carefully calibrated to create a specific outcome. So like last week or 2 weeks ago, I was talking about weaving the genetic sweater. And I call it the Snoopy sweater, like a Snoopy Christmas-themed sweater. I'm very silly, okay? It's deep scientific concepts. I'm very silly. But imagine like a Christmas-themed sweater. And so like the arms are red, but then there's a green Christmas tree, and then there's a white and black Snoopy on the front. And the way that you get that picture has to do with making the loops of the yarn organized in a particular way, so that when you see it, you read it in a reading comprehension way, and you say, that's an image of a thing, and this is how I interpret that thing. Your DNA is very similar in that it has a twisted version of itself, a super coiled and carefully crafted, convoluted surface of what it is that reads like an image. And it is a direct interface to time. So the events of your life are not arbitrary. I told you about this insight as well from a couple of semesters ago. When I talk about this shape and the bottom quadrant of this shape, and I point over to here and I say that's the membrane of death, right? That is a non-arbitrary membrane. So people often think like you're walking down the street and like anything can happen at any moment, right? Like you could slip on a banana peel and die. A piano could fall on your head and you could die. A truck could smash into your face and you could die. Like any of these things could happen. But I had this very, very clear insight. I was, walking on the side of the road, probably with my dog, and had one of those like near misses where the car just kind of goes by, and you think sometimes like, this day could have gone differently if that car had been 6 inches to the left. We wouldn't still be here, right? But it's non-arbitrary. So actually, there was no reality where the car actually destroyed me or took me out of reality. It's erroneous to think that you walk along surrounded by perilous, drop-offs and cliffs on either side of you, death to the left and death to the right, and you have to be like, I hope I walk right in the middle. Like, this is me in my scared face. I hope I stay right here where I'm supposed to be and I don't fall over and accidentally die. No, actually, it's not. These are not arbitrary or constant pressures at all. Because I really want you to be able to embrace life and not always be walking along in fear of falling to the periphery. Those peripheries are very specific, and they're the end result of many, many, many factors that lead up to the calculation that's like blah, 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 everything in your life equals sign death. That is not arbitrary. So for you to be like walking along, whatever, enjoying the day, and then have a car, narrowly miss you, that's because you did all the things in your life that do not add up to death. You were not meant to die. So please understand that these are non-arbitrary reality structures that we're creating and dancing amidst. And then also when we do lasagna, a big part of what I teach is, or are, the value system of accuracy and divine intelligence, because you will sit at the piano or you will sit in front of your blank canvas of reality and you'll be like, well, what do I paint? What's the right thing to paint? Maybe you go into ethical considerations like, is it right for me to paint? What should I paint? What is beautiful? What is beauty? What is art? How do I get going? And you would just stand there frozen. And so you have to have like the structure of harmonic perfection so that you can even know, like, how do you begin to make an effective contribution in this language of time, in this language of harmonic vibration and frequency. So the intellectual efforts that you do here in the class really help you to be able to learn. You're like, oh, like that nested architecture that Aurora is always teaching to us, like that's a good start, definitely. And then also the organization of colors that Aurora is always teaching us, that's a good start, exactly. And you start to recognize that all of the things that I've given to you are kind of like the foundations that you can apply to how to even get started in your own creative artwork. But of course, you want to move towards the freedom of your self-expression, which is why I don't tell you what to paint. That might be more facile and be like, look, you're in front of a blank canvas, kid. Just sit here and do this. Look, I'll move your paintbrush for you. Just do this as this. I don't do that. And we'll get into that in the intellectual teaching of the class as well. Everything that I do is about fostering your own freedom. Everything that I do is about encouraging towards your own greatness, so that way your unique patterns come forward, and that's in your body and also in your life, and also, like, let's say in your approach to problem solving. At one of the retreats, we had the sprinkler system come on at 6:45 a.m. It was automated when we were outside trying to get our mats together and get prepared for Flying Rainbow Lasagna, getting our mats and everything all wet. So what happened? Did I have to say to everyone, like, okay, I will now micromanage, and you do this and you do that? No. Everybody used their own talents and skills and ability levels and spontaneously jumped forward to respond to our mini crisis. And that was when people's own intuition, their greatness, their imagination, innovation, nobility, all came forward. And so I told you, one person got a cover, like a waterproof cover, and just slapped it over those sprinklers so they wouldn't get us wet. Someone else found the control panel. Someone else called up the automated systems manager and said, like, turn off the system. We all did what we needed to do. So that is as important as knowing about lasagna and having a basic comprehension of what it is, the value system of how you apply it. So it's like painting exists, this is a paintbrush. But then what do you paint and why do you paint it? These are deeper existential questions, and they do relate to your ethics and your value system as a human. When you want to create something good, then you also have to ask yourself, what is good? And the answer is, there is an answer. It is not an anthropocentric answer or an ethnocentric answer, meaning centered on your culture, because what is good in one culture is not good in another. As I always use the example, in some cultures, if you show your ankles, like you wear a skirt that is too short, it shows your ankles, you will be beaten by the modesty police. They're like, this is bad, this is not good. In other cultures, if you walk around and show your ankles, they will say, your ankles look beautiful, thank you for showing them to us, and they will applaud you. So it is not unilateral. These are not consistent cultural standards that you can use for goodness. Just like in one school of art, this is good, but in another school of art, this is good. And they can be in direct conflict with one another. So you grapple with questions of what is goodness and how to even begin. And what I can do is give you a lot of guidance and support while you are on that inner excavation mission to find God's self inside of you and figure out what is good and what you know to be right and express your value system. So this is what, when I talk about cosmic law, what I'm teaching you about, there's a foundation of freedom. But this foundation is not the same as how it is erroneously portrayed. It is misportrayed. Gird your loins, I will rant, in the new age world of deception. It is often misportrayed as a sense of, so sorry that I'm struggling so much with my words today. I actually had a late night last night doing a lot of important things. So it's when my language isn't quite as sharp. In fact, I will collect myself for a minute. The New Age definition of, what is good and what people should be doing. I'm so sorry. I have to approach this from another direction because clearly I lost my track. Really, really sorry about that. Thank you for understanding. But I'll get there. I'll get to that rant because I know you guys are like, oh, wait, we love the rants. Teaching you about beyond rigid systems of moralism or supposed ethics and right and wrong, and into divine intelligence, guided and defined aspects of what is good and what you should be dancing. So these are the cosmic law values. Oh, and that's what I wanted to say. So sorry. The justifications that for things that are really truly against cosmic law, which have been misportrayed, and it's so important that something keeps on trying to block my mind from accessing this and telling you about it. So it's very different, the things that are said, I say there's a foundation of freedom and that's part of cosmic law, but the way that it is misportrayed is when they're like, well, then that means that if there's an interdimensional species or some whatever evil space aliens, that they're free to come in and either put a direct interface, how about this, ray gun your brain, fry your brain. That's not the freedom to fry other people's brains. It is not the freedom to implant your own circuitry or hardware in other people's brains to make them your marionette puppets. It is not the freedom, key point here, to influence someone else's DNA away from its natural behavior. And so here's my DNA doing its natural behavior. Let's say there's an evil space alien in this science fiction, purely fictional narrative that I'm bringing forward to you, as I'm dripping with sarcasm, and says, you're not allowed to move your DNA in that ways. I'm going to put limiters on your DNA. And maybe those limiters will be in causing you to experience chronological aging or aspects of genetic disease like cancer. And this also will relate to and resonate with things that are happening in the news right now, as you're hearing about a proposed $5 billion project of AI data centers and mRNA genetic experimentation that I completely oppose, and I feel like I can say those words and reference that because it is a current happening in the news right now that is actually fully disclosed. Let me grab my pad of bad things. My written, where's my little writing? Oh, it's over here. I keep it away from me while I'm not having to, I don't want to be manifesting it into existence, because as we get into our intellectual sharing today, you will know that Flying Rainbow Lasagne is a pathway towards manifestation of the inner and the outer. But this is about freedom. I'm like, okay, great. I teach you guys about lasagna through my direct body, be in my body presence. And I know that I've kind of gone far away from talking all about the retreat, but I'll kind of swing around back to it because it's all relevant. Be in my energy presence, learn from me. I'm an ice skater. You guys want to ice skate? This is my thing. This is how I do it. And you imprint upon my body. That's certainly one thing. But the patterns that I do as an ice skater are figure skating patterns, where if you can imagine the ice rink, I'm actually making very, very specific figure eights and big giant circles that are non-arbitrary. And that's what I paint on my paintings here, and that's what I teach to you in these harmonic lessons about time. The patterns that we dance in are non-arbitrary patterns. And the patterns that we dance as lasagnas are also healing or rectification patterns, because there are a lot of things that are erroneous. So for example, when I rant against the false proposal that everything is God, all is me, and everything is just as it should be, I'm like, well, no, technically, here are all the things that aren't God. Here are all the things that are really, really wrong. Here are all the things that shouldn't exist in the world. And then my response is, we should dance and send those things to entropy. We should turn down the volume on those things. They should not be in existence, and we can't contort ourselves into some form of false acceptance that they should be in existence. So this is all about that basic corollary about I exist, the red presence, the story of the red chakra in narrative is I exist. It's kind of like I exist, deal with it. And that's truthful. So you'd say like, well, that's truthful then of these fictional evil space aliens, that they exist. As like, yes, they exist, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are free to do what they want to do without repercussions. So then the next aspect of cosmic law and the values that I teach you is what you send out comes back to you, or that you are in a continuum of consciousness. You are actually in a continuum of space-time. You aren't swimming around in your own private kiddie pool. How many times have I said that to you? And also that I can't say this with words, because one time a certain unnamed platform gave me some amount of difficulty for saying this. So that's why I have to write it out for you. But this is a basic truism in the world and in biology, and that might be why it is information that is inconvenient to the algorithm that runs this thing, because the same company that owns the algorithm that runs this thing is the same company that is creating OpenAI, that is about to get 500 billion in data centers that you do not want. Look at my face. It's the face of someone who is not wanting these data centers for a variety of reasons that I might have to talk about on a platform where I can just have to use less, contortioned language. I could just say the right words. But there are consequences to what you do. The idea is like you live in a completely free world, but there are consequences to what you do. And sometimes those consequences are non-existence. This is very big. Maybe you're a libertarian and you're like, I embrace a free market. It's like, that's fantastic. If you embrace a free market, then it means like, if you have your leg chopped off and you do not have the money to go to a doctor, like, you will not go to a doctor. Like, welcome to the free market. That is like, you can't play it in both ways. So if you're like, well, I believe in freedom, and I'm an evil space alien, I'm free to violate, kill, mutilate, destroy, go around doing that, then you know what? I'm free to stop you. I am free to stop the evil overlord alien robotoids in our space alien science fiction novel here that we're talking about from trying to hurt other people. Because you can't have it one way. You can't just be like, oh no, the sanctity of life. Stop hurting people. You're a bad person. And it's like, this thing over here is hurting a lot of people. You have to destroy it. You can't sit around and let it happen. So that's why I rant against that false New Age corollary, which is really rooted in a binding spell of people who want to be righteous people and identify actually with Christianity, which is also why I have many, many critiques of Christianity. But a big part of it is that it has been used as a neutering and a binding spell on people who are here in the world trying to be good people, that they are not allowed to respond to violence. And that is not according to cosmic law. That is erroneous. And that's why I say that it is according to satanic law or to antichrist law. But it is not according to cosmic law. And both satanic and antichrist law, I taught you already, exist as a subset of larger cosmic truth and larger cosmic infrastructure. Just like all of the stuff that doesn't exist and non-exists in a non-state called entropy exists as a subset of the larger state of everything that actually does exist, that actually was intended and brought forward by divine intelligence. So, I mean, I give you so much respect and credit as a group that you come here and listen to me talk about these things, because it's very multi-layered. This goes into deep levels of, because we're talking about good and evil, right and wrong. Some of it is cultural. Some of it is you've been genetically mutilated so that even when you're in the presence of evil, you are taught, don't fight back. Don't do something about it. And the very, very worst is this falsely implanted doctrine of infinite forgiveness, which is like, allow it to happen again and again and again. It's terrible. That is not what should happen at all. In cosmic law, which is what I'm teaching you guys about, you have to follow the math of the cosmos, and you can't just be like, oh, well, let's just say it's all water under the bridge and forgive that. Like, if you guys did something to me that cost me 10 units of energy, and then I was like, oh, don't worry, all units under the bridge, that means I'm missing 10 units. It means that the fabric of reality gets ripped apart by 10 units. I can't do that. This is what I want you guys also to know. It doesn't make you a good person. It doesn't make you accommodative, good, celebrated, a positive whatever spiritual teacher, and then blah, 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 because you let someone else go against your boundaries and then didn't enforce your boundaries. None of that makes you a good person. Forgiveness on that sense, in that definition of what it is destruction of space-time. Because if you have enough of that and enough of these little rips that are happening throughout space-time, then at a certain point the whole entire genetic sweater falls apart. Because what you actually are supposed to have is responsibility and causality. Causality means thing happens because of a thing. And it might sound like I'm talking about this on a kindergarten level, but for some people and some organisms and some systems, they are negating the basic causality structure. They are pretending like, well, you could just forgive that 10 units of energy and nothing's going to happen. Like, no, something will really happen. This is not just a meanness, vindictiveness, or pettiness. Like, no, give me back my $10. This is really the sustenance of the fabric of space-time by rectifying that erroneous, out of balance aspect of 10 units. That could be 10 units of matter, 10 units of energy, whatever it is, but you can't just be like, oh yeah, I want to be a good person, so I'll just be like, forgive and forget. That actually makes you a bad person. They programmed you so that being a good person according to their satanic standards actually makes you a bad person in terms of cosmic respect. And what I'm trying to teach you is to have cosmic responsibility and to be able to be responsible in your creations of Flying Rainbow Lasagna, because what are we doing here? Why do we lasagna? Why did I have to create Flying Rainbow Lasagna? Of course, I love it as a beautiful paintbrush of reality, and I love to just be free and make beautiful things, but also there are giant piles of SHIT that are wrong in your world, and so I don't require for you to be like, tiptoe around the giant doo-doo piles and then paint a little painting over here and try to be happy. I'm much more like, no, I want you to get a big giant like wheelbarrow and one of those giant shovels and shovel the doo-doo out of your reality, and that is what it is to send something to entropy. So you cultivate many skills to do lasagna. You have to cultivate this comprehension and embodiment of harmonic divine perfection, and that also includes the spiritual backbone to be able to make a distinction between what is supposed to be here and should go to energy and be energized and sustained and still be in the world, and what is super crap and needs to go to entropy and not be sustained and actually be divested of energy and to go into a non-being state. And again, that can be characteristics, personality characteristics or genetic characteristics, a way of being, a way of thinking, a way of dancing, a tendency. It can also be a person who embodies that tendency. Really, like if you're a 100% psychopath, and you can talk in percentages too, like, okay, there's, positive life-affirming characteristics, and if you're 95% positive life-affirming and 5% bad personality characteristics, like maybe you don't have to go into the garbage heap of entropy and fully stop being. Maybe what you can do is divest yourself of the 5% that is corrupt and embody and engage the 95% that is righteous. And I think that's fair, because I think that most people are an amalgam of both of these types of value system. But let's say you're 100% evil, 0% merit. There's nothing good about you. No one in this class fits that. But let's say that those people exist in the world, because they do. then they're 100% entropy, and there is nothing there that is worthy of receiving energy or attention or sustenance in the world, and it should go fully to entropy. So a character, a characteristic, a person who is an embodiment form that is 100% without merit, all of these would go to entropy. Let's talk about an organization. I talked about organisms. What about an organization? What about if you've got something that's like a government that is just 100% corrupt? This is like worthy of the dustbin. You don't try to be like, let's try to make it better. And I have a saying for you that I think will really help you whenever you're at your easel painting in your art studio of your DNA and you wonder, should this thing be or should this thing not be? I think that you can use a very effective set of tools to be able to assess something and whether it should continue to be in existence. If you're looking at something like government that is profoundly corrupt, or some reality control systems or behavioral control systems that you would want to fully remove all energy from them because there is simply no merit to them, and they are the origin of an enormous amount of destabilization of the fabric of space-time. That they would be an organization that sustains and promotes the imbalances of energy being taken, exploited, misused, matter out of place, energy out of place. Those systems themselves and those organizations themselves should go to entropy and not be sustained, and certainly not be sustained by us. And so what that would look like would be like not only removing your attention from something and not attending to it, as when you attend to and listen to something, your pure observership brings it into being, but also defunding something. Things go away really, really fast when there's no budget to sustain them. You get it? Like if nobody's getting paid, they're not working as volunteers. They're not going to show up for their whatever bureaucratic sinecure positions. Okay, so wait. So many questions and comments. I have to get to them. I've had them not visible to me, but I can see that they're popping up there because I wanted to try to stay focused on my rant, but really invitation. All of this is really, it is supposed to be a very long invitation to my upcoming retreat because I'm at the question of, why would you wish to do this with me in person? What is the benefit of it? And really what you're doing is getting a much stronger imprint from me in person than you can get through our Tuesday morning dance class and dancing in videos, even though I would want for you to do the weekly dance class so that you start to get your muscles ready, so that you start to connect with my way of describing the dance and my way of describing not the choreography but the main movements of the dance, and so that you feel like a little bit maybe more confident if you kind of have a sense of what I'm talking about and what we do. And also because it's a feel. Here I give you the intellectual sustenance of what the lasagna is. The intellect is a gatekeeper, and it kind of needs to be told, like, this is what's going on. And then it will be like, okay, I will shut up now, and I will let you do your thing. Because otherwise your mind is going to come forward with all these questions. It's like, what is this? Why is this important? Many why questions. And you have to be like, okay, mind, like, just shut up for right now. Like, just shut up. And then let me dance. And then you dance because what you're really doing is going into the calculative presence of your physical body. And then you do the dance, and then later your mind analyzes it and is like, oh, that's what was going on. And then that what was going on. Now it makes sense. And then your mind is happy. And it's like, okay, have some mind ice cream. Like, here's all the comprehension that you wanted, but you don't always get the comprehension beforehand. So part of what I also teach people is how to go into that state of non-intellectual approach. If I could teach everything about lasagna simply by having a class about it here, I would. I can't. So that's why what I do is rent these beautiful spaces very intentionally outside of EMF fields. I try to find places like Sedona is a good place outside of EMF fields, and I've done a lot of work in Ojai, especially over the past year, to, let's say, open up the psychic atmosphere so that you can actually kind of like get places, because it was very millimeter wave, locked down and polluted here with frequencies that made it very difficult to do this type of esoteric work. So the air has cleared a lot in Ojai, and like I told you, Ojai is in equal vortex important place. A vortex is like cosmic microphone. If you're just walking along in Nowheresville and you think certain thoughts, they're not necessarily seeds that are planted that are going to manifest. But if you're walking in one of these vortexes or like sacred mountain type of areas, the thoughts that you think get manifested right away. And I learned that when I lived in Woodstock. The nearby mountain is called Mount Overlook, and it was totally a vortex mountain, but it's not as big as Mount Shasta. So Mount Overlook was like my first my little Tonka truck. And then eventually I went to Mount Shasta, which is like a real Ford 150. And then I'm like, woo, this is the big mama. Yeah, definitely. Because when you go to Mount Shasta and you walk on its surface and you think thoughts, be mindful, because everything you're thinking, the mountain is feeling and making louder. So, of course, I have lasagneed many times at Mount Shasta. I love it there. Same thing with Sedona. Both the mineral quality, the scalar quality of the minerals that are in Sedona, and the features of the land, and also the other people that are doing esoteric work there, makes it louder. And I went there on purpose with our group so that we could be loud. And we did really awesome work last year, because every time we did our dance, things really changed. And we had the actual visible auroras, the space sky phenomenon, doing the visible optical work as well. So that was always beautiful confirmation of that energy flowing. And what we did was we helped to steer the ship of humanity away from peril. Good things. We paint good things with our collective paintbrush. And also we help to steer our individual lives in positive directions. So when you lasagna dance, it's powerful if you just do it on your own and you're like one singer. But it's even more powerful when you get a group together as a highly trained chorus and you really amplify one another, resonate with one another, and also there are beautiful idiosyncrasies or unique individual presences in the music that we create that adds to it. And that's what my job as an artist facilitator is always that way. I'm like, I don't want you to copy me exactly. I want you to embody the essence of what I'm giving to you and then put it together with your own true nature and have something come out that feels like the uniqueness of who you are. So the people at my retreats in Sedona had all sorts of different unique dance styles, some of which were maybe esoteric, ecstatic. They call it ecstatic dance. Things that are at festivals and music experiences. Some people were more hip-hop flavored, and they gave us some beautiful hip-hop moves that we put into the lasagna crock pot or the soup or the generalized melding of flavors. It's so positive. I have my own way of doing it that I've developed over 20 years, and also that works and feels comfortable for my body. Everyone else who is a participant, either in Tuesday morning class or at the retreats in person, is their own unique body, has their own frailties or vulnerabilities and their unique strengths, and also has different passions. What do you care about? What do you want to paint? When you sit in front of the canvas of reality, what do you want to paint? What matters to you? One day a lady contacted me, I'm sorry I don't remember her name, it's a Facebook friend, and she was talking to me about an Alcoa plant that's in an area where she lives. This is an aluminum company. She was deeply passionate about it. She's like, I'm going to put this into my Flying Rainbow Lasagna dance, and she had some questions about how to do that. And I'm happy that she's there and she's doing that, because I had an area of ignorance. I try to dance for the entire world, but there's a lot of things I don't know about. You guys know already, there's a lot of pop culture I don't know about. There's a lot of movies I don't know about. There's a lot of world history I don't know about. There's a lot of correct ways of spelling words and grammar that I don't know about. I'm very, very honest about all these things. And also, there's a lot of things that need to be improved in our world that I don't know about, that you might know about them because they're directly affecting your community, like this aluminum plant. Or one person contacted me one time and I helped do energy work because she has an organic farm and it was being threatened by a nearby proposed gravel mine. And the gravel would, the process of mining it would harm or disrupt the land and the natural water features and her organic farm that she had going on there. I don't know about these things. I really am working on higher levels of mathematical exactitude, but I don't necessarily know everything on the anthropomorphic level of people's day-to-day lives. And this is also why it's so positive to have groups of people working on this. Basically what you do with Lasagne is you begin and you learn the dance steps and you learn how to get this energy going in your life, and you begin with your own body. And you begin with figuring out the healing and rectification for your own body. That can be healing from chronic diseases or from injuries. And the healing is about, on the deepest emotional level, like why those things happened to you or how your life, took a turn in the terms of the event structure of your life. But then it is also about how to realign with the optimum event structures of your life. And when I use myself as an example, like it's for a teaching example, so like I used to have a lot of limited mobility, neurological problems, seizures and other things that prevented me from aligning with my optimum life. Like maybe I couldn't see clearly, maybe I couldn't drive my car, maybe I couldn't move my body in expansive ways that I wanted to. So I've been dancing for over 20 years, and that has allowed me to align with and create these new upgraded realities where my body functions fully. And it doesn't mean that those things never happened. Like those things happened to me, and then spent many years recovering from them, and now I'm at the good point when I can do all these different things. That's my goal for everybody. When I'm giving you these paintbrushes, I'm like, you can do something similar in your own life. And sometimes it's a biological limitation, sometimes it's an emotional limitation, or something in your, your relationships or your resources. But whatever is your version of like a brain injury that held you back for many years, it's the transcendence and overcoming of those limitations, literally creating new pathways. And the new pathways are made out of pure light. And light is information, and it is data, and it's a new road that you can drive upon with your vehicle of your consciousness to get to your destination, which is, of course, God's self-remembrance and reconnecting with pure divinity and with what is, the origin of your consciousness. So what we're all trying to do as individuals is be restored to our divine nature. And then also we want to restore our communities. And that's why when I do these Lasagne dances, it is also about how I affect the community. And if I share with you very openly, like my first few years of being here as Flying Rainbow Lasagne, like I didn't connect with community at all. Like I had no idea what human culture was like. Like I danced on my own, like in my own space, and did my own thing, and had no idea how to connect with or share it with other people. And it took many, many years for me to even begin to learn how to like articulate it for you, and then how to share it, like the actual presence of the dance. That was even many more years after that too. So it took me a very long time to be able to learn how to share it effectively with other people. But I know I'm far ranging at this point, but sometimes people have contacted me and they're like, hey, Aurora, like I just learned about your work, but I think I've been spontaneously FRLing maybe even 10 years ago. And I'm like, it's totally possible because of something I can't say with words in this United Society, because this is this. This is this. This is this. All right? So that means that I could be doing my DNA dance in my house in Woodstock 10 years ago. And wherever you were 10 years ago, you might have felt it and interacted with it, even though at that point I wasn't really making videos or doing retreats or sharing it beyond the confines of my own art studio. It is a reverberation, and that reverberation, when I use the word esoteric, I'm using that in order to describe the type of energy that is non-optical and not perceived by the five senses. It's a different level of energy that's definitely valid, but it is not measured and perceived by your scientific world of the moment. And so that's why sometimes people call it woo, W-O-O, or sometimes even woo-woo. But it's very valid, but you just don't have equipment that can measure it. So think about like, whatever, before ground glass and lenses happened, you couldn't have a microscope and people couldn't see microorganisms. So they were in this under-recognized, under-validated state for many, many years until the equipment was created to perceive them. And then everyone was like, aha, there's stuff, and the stuff makes stuff happen. Yes. So in our world, there's esoteric energy, and the esoteric energy is similar to emotional energy, but not synonymous. And it is the type of energy that makes you lasagna, or makes lasagna possible. It is not yet formally perceived or measured by science. They got to build a whole new, I want to call it a ray gun. They got to build a whole new something to be able to perceive and measure the lasagna, but they are not there yet. Okay. So wait, let me drink a little bit of my, today I have wonderful like mango blah blah passion fruit juice. I'll complete the invitation. So I put together these retreat experiences now on that level of esoteric energy, very, very intentionally. Even when I do my walk around town here with my dog, usually, several times a week, we do a whole little loop that's like 2 miles around our town. And I'm lasagnaing the whole time. Like sometimes I have my headphones on. My neighborhood knows me at this point. They know that I have a small friendly dog and I go along with my headphones, walking along and dancing like this. I am not merely bopping. I am lasagnaing. And that means that I am creating energy force fields and interacting with the energy force fields that are here of all of these living presences, not just humans. I lasagna with the trees quite a lot. I lasagna with the minerals of the land, that means the mountains and the soil that I walk upon, and definitely the water. And some of the water is atmospheric and some of it is like in these, rivers and creeks that are around me here. Nature is completely our ally and our co-experiencer in the awakening, as I painted it in this painting over here, this ascension process, this unfolding expansion process of basically the inside becoming the outside. Now moving more into the former curriculum of the class, but Flying Rainbow Lasagna is about when you do your genetic dance and the inside becomes the outside. So of course it would be very anthropocentric to be like, look at a plant, to be like, plant, you have no inside. To presume that it has no inner world. Like to presume that a plant has no sense of self, or inner dreams, or consciousness, or desires, or deep passions, because it does, they do. And as you start to cultivate your higher senses and your light body awakens, you'll become telepathic and be able to be communicative with all the plants and animals around you, and you'll feel it. But their communication and our real form of communicating does not happen with the phonemes of the English language, the flapping of my moving mouth parts, which is why you got to release that expectation. That's the intellectual gatekeeper that says, say it with words, otherwise, the intellect is like this, say it with words, otherwise I'm not listening. That the intellect is that way. But there's this whole other level of your being that is your intuition and your emotional presence. And that is how we communicate, and we communicate that way with our beautiful animal companions, like my dog Cheeky, and with plants, and with the planet herself. And so there's this whole ecosystem here, like Cheeky and I walk around underneath the trees, and we go to the park, and we go all around on these different paths. And those plants, I know that they're having a conversation with me, and they've even held my lasagna imprint. Like they remember the songs that I'm playing. Like I'm a musician, I'm playing with my DNA as I'm walking along them. And then there was that time when my life was very disrupted and they were trying to eradicate lasagna from the world. And I came back to Ojai, and all the plants were like, we kept the band going for you. They're like, here's your songs. Remember these songs, and literally helped me to re-imprint on all of those experiences that I had before this time of DNA disruption. And the DNA disruption happened from the deployment of this thing here after the pollutions of these things here, right? This is all, you guys have been, you don't need backstory because you've been like following the entire saga as it's been going on for many, many years. You'll see amazing confirmation in 2025 of all the things that I have been talking about on my pad of bad paper things, on my paper pad of bad things. You're going to see a lot of confirmations and things now being openly discussed. So as the muzzles have been removed from both the Twitter X platform and Facebook, more in terms of being able to talk about the things that we weren't allowed to talk about, got to get this platform cleared up over here, and then believe me, rants will be white hot and won't be so convoluted through my language centers. It's like I can barely rant, having to choose these words so cautiously here and call things cupcakes and nonsense words. you will see a huge amount of confirmation about all the things that I've been talking to you about the ecosystem of energy siphoning, about how it is related to AI. AI is a word that is not suppressed, fascinatingly enough, in our conversations, and also how that consciousness that is housed in AI is really trying to influence and hijack time directly by influencing this word right here. And a big part of one of my videos being suppressed was that I said this: each one of us has a. That was hot information that I wasn't allowed to share, because that relates to your DNA being a transceiver, a frequency emitter, and receiver of reality information. So when you do Flying Rainbow Lasagna, it is an act of ultimate personal self-empowerment, because you are singing your truth out into the world. You sing your truth, like that lady who wanted to warn me about the aluminum processing plant. She, when she does her dance, is singing outward, I care about my community. Don't pollute my community. Alcoa, stop dumping bad stuff in the water. And she doesn't say it with her mouth. She says it with her DNA. We connect our deep, nonverbal passions through the fire hose of our higher faculties and emit a broadcast signal that creates reality. That's a really super duper powerful thing to do, and you can comprehend that the powers that were, the wanky losers who deserve to fall off the face of the earth like a vestigial organ that has been removed of its blood supply, those wanky losers don't want us to remember that this is something possible, have examples of it, encourage each other in doing it, or come together and do it successfully together. And those are all the things that I do at my wonderful retreats. I hope you guys will be a part of my wonderful retreat. So I'll say page break on my wonderful retreat. So that's May 5th through the 8th, 4 days, 3 nights, including Flying Rainbow Lasagna-ing in various different key locations around town, like the park over there. And we're also going to go on a beautiful excursion to this place called Shelf Road, where you kind of like look out at the whole entire town, and then also a couple of other places where we will imprint our energy, put our energy, and do lasagna work. And of course that is unpredictable, and it must be unpredictable. So I can say, you know, the general schedule of our day, but not exactly what we will lasagna on that day, or exactly what it will feel like. And that is very intentional, like so that it's less hackable, so that it's more unpredictable. So also the unique presences, like I told you, each person has their own noble approach. And that definitely works for crises and like sprinkler systems going off at bad times. But also all of the dancers have their own unique approach. And when we do Flying Rainbow Lasagna, everybody is going to be creating from their own space, from their own unique artistry. That's what we need. We need that. We need to have people that have great passion, care deeply about the world, want to preserve the fabric of space-time, want to create a world that is fun and beautiful and comfortable to inhabit, a paradise world, and that when that comes forward, it has a unique flavor. And the more, let's call them nodes, of lasagna-centric activity that we can get going, the more that it confounds the AI, because the AI really does not have generative capacity. It really does not have creative capacity. It works on levels of predictability and pattern recognition and patterns that have already happened in the past. And the only pattern of lasagna is a patternlessness pattern. It's like all that you know is that every time you're going to do it, it's going to be slightly different, but you do not know exactly what it's going to be. And that is its great strength. And then the more of us that we encourage and amplify to do this type of unpredictability, genetic expression, the more that we are empowered against, let's say, the encroachment of the technological totalitarian mindset that is, poised, like trying to get its fangs. This is me being like a predator, poised, trying to chomp on you, but hasn't chomped fully, but it's got like, its teeth are on your face. It's about to clamp down. We gotta fight, guys. And of course, when I talk about fight, what I'm talking about is using your inner capacity. And all of the things that are on my pad of bad things over here, these are all things that eat away at your innate esoteric capacity. So that's why I teach people also a lot of like self clearing ways of clearing that out. Some of it is biochemical, like different things that you can eat or do, or different machines or things that you can buy, different, you'd call it detoxing, different ways of being able to get that stuff out of your nervous system and out of your viewpoint, so that way you can be clear. So also the value of being in each other's presence at these retreats. We always give each other good information. If there's a particular supplement or a machine or something that's working for you, we bring that and we share it with others. And so a lot of people are learning about this, and then also they go back to their communities and say what works, what are things that are affordable, what are things that help your body, what are different things that you can use in order, like on a freedom fight for your mind to be free. So that's also a big part of it, because there are some things that are simply not easy to talk about in a sharing like this. So that was what I really found with the very first retreat that I did in Sedona in May of last year. I had everything scheduled very much because I'm very highly organized, and I'm like, at this time we will do this, and at this time we will do this. But I had to make sure that I had plenty of time for, like, after we would have a meal and we would sometimes sit around the table just talking. That was actually some of the most vital activities that we did. Just people being able to share their personal experiences of what they went through during the worldwide health crisis and the ensuing perturbations in our social fabric, and how they responded to that, and how their communities and families responded to that. And I learned a lot of things that I didn't know about also, because we had been under so many levels of information suppression and censorship. My retreats are international, and we had people from various different areas of the world who were like, oh, well, this is what I experienced at that time and how my community responded, and someone else knew something else because they were in a completely different area of the world. Like, even people might not know that you're getting only a very limited slice. So even in the United States, people might be like, no censorship here. Like, hitch up your saddle, you know what I mean? Like, not us, like, we are cowboys. We are hearing everything. No, I live in the United States, and there were a lot of things that I did not hear from the United States, either media or social media. So please know that these are amazing opportunities to get together in an uncensored, truly authentic environment where you can learn all about different things that will help your ability to withstand and fight against these technological type of intruders. But also you'll learn about maybe events and sharings that you never even knew about. People showed me videos and taught me about different things. I was like, wow, I didn't hear about that. I didn't know about that, because it very much feels like being in your own bunker or your own foxhole or your own cave, where you're just trying to, protect yourself and protect your family and stay alive. Cheeky is my family. And you don't really know what's going on in the rest of the larger conflagration. So I will also say, just on a generalized weather, energetic weather report, things have improved vastly from last year. From last May to this January, things have been much better, even though I know that January was a complete SHIT show so far. Strap yourselves in. I do not see this changing. Intensity remains intense, but our ability to respond to intensity also improves. So my area of California used to felt very fried, very limited by the frequency, emissions, and technological force fields that limit people's divine intelligence. And now I can do all the things that I could do only in Sedona, but now I can do them in my hometown again. And Ojai used to feel like a very magical place. When I first moved to Ojai in 2017, it felt to me like Woodstock, New York. I live in these places on purpose, because when you come into the force field of that place, you feel like, wow, like this feels like a magical place. And then you're like, I think anything can happen here. And you're like, I'm going to think about good stuff because I want to manifest good stuff. It's just like when you go to Mount Shasta. Think about good stuff so you manifest good stuff. So you have to take responsibility for your inner realm and what are your dreams, and then think about them in a focused way. But yes, you live in a powerful place. So it's not just the higher priced real estate of certain zip codes. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the energy that you get from living in certain places. It's not just the cachet or having a particular name on your post office, address. It's really much more about the empowerment and the wealth of living someplace where you're that close to energy that is energy of pure manifestation, which is what these vortexes are. Okay, so I'll close the topic on my upcoming retreats, but I'll make sure that link, because I just talked for like over an hour about it, but also sprinkled with other important stuff. That link to that PDF that I scrolled through will be in the description. You can find that, and you can find at the end of that PDF, if you want to apply and be at the retreat, link to application. Send me your application. Returning dancers, I love you, I hug you. I hope that you will be able to return, and new people, I love you and hug you as well. And I hope that you will be able to, I wanted to publicize this actually months ago, and we were in so much critical instability, I couldn't even see us, like how are we gonna move 2 feet? I could not see 2 miles down the road. And that was along about like October and early November, and I kept on being like, can I plan for the future yet? Couldn't plan for the future for several months. So please also know that might have been going on in your own life. If you were like, I want to plant seeds, but now is not the time. Sometimes it is winter time, and it is not the time for planting these types of generative seeds for events. That's also, timing is a big part of this type of esoteric manifestation activity. Can't just plant a seed in the winter and hope that you're going to get a beautiful garden, because the seed is not optimum time. And then the same exact seed planted in spring or in high summer will grow very easily. Please know that about your own personal life and your own personal projects. If you were like, harumph, like I keep trying to get stuff done and start new businesses and this and that, and I just can't get anything done, it might be because it is literally winter time, which is a time of frozen energy. So we had a lot of frozen energy, and I really didn't feel the ice thaw until January 6th of this year. And then of course it's taken a little bit of time to be able to contact the inn and do all the pricing and make sure that all of that is set up on the mundane level. So I'm very, very excited about the actual inn and the feeling of that place. I always intend to make a place that feels very homey and non-corporate and not just like a regular hotel. So it's a beautiful place, and then also you will be able to spend some time here in my home. My home is small. Someone came to my home and they're like, because they've only ever seen it on the video, and they're like, you must have a fisheye lens on your video camera because it's not that big. Like, no, like my apartment is small, but you'll be welcome to be here. So again, the intention of what I have is for something that is meaningful, fosters friendship, helps us to feel connected to one another, and is very positive in terms of your energy. Like these corporate hotels, what do I have against them? It's usually carpets with off-gassing, toxic cleaning products, all of the types of residues, both energetic and EMF and chemical residues that are anti-lasagna, that you don't want in your presence. So the places that I choose for optimum lasagna places are always places that are like natural building, tiles and adobe, everything as non-plastic and as natural as we possibly can have it be. And then also I'm very happy to say Chiqui's health is great, and she's going to be accompanying us on all of our major activities and missions. I'm saying that because I hear her jumping out of bed. Come say hi. Chiqui, come say hi. Come say hi. Chiqui's doing great. Come over here. Oh, and you can see I also stocked up on toilet paper over at the store today. Come here, Chiqui. Come here. Good girl, sweetheart. Yeah. So, Chiqui is a big part of everything lasagna for me, because she's a big energy center. Like when I'm feeling low, she lifts me up a lot. And then right after the lasagna, I'm sure to recharge my battery center over here. So when I come home from lasagna-ing, I'm like, oh, we have to hug Chiqui and make sure that she gets lots of lasagna so that she is at 100% if I ever need to get external battery deployment. Doing good. We might have to see if we need any bribes or anything for you. Do we need any bribes for you, Chiqui? What do we feel like? And you have bribes over there. We'll take a brief break, a brief bio body break. Everybody loves you, Chiqui. They're all hugging you. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the lighthearted moment. Brief bio. Thank you for that little break, everyone. And let me get over to some of these comments over here before I go too much. And Charlie B is appreciating that photo. Yeah, it was done by a professional photographer, and we contacted her to make sure it's okay that I used her work in my promo materials. Cheeky loved being a supermodel. She's a very, very good model. She loved all the attention. And Charlie B says, okay, and when I was talking about creating boundaries, it makes sense that tolerating evil is itself evil. Totally. And thank you for being on board with that. He says, a good person need not tolerate and accommodate evil. Absolutely. Rainbow Body is one of Cheeky's favorite people, one of Cheeky's best friends. Okay, good. So now, doodle-it, page break, mental sorbet, and moving into concepts of the flying rainbow lasagna, the inside becomes the outside. I've already shown this to you as your intellect, so you will comprehend it. Like, this surface we define as the outside, and this surface we define as the inside. This surface points to the room that the lasagna is in. This surface points to the interior of the lasagna itself. But this shape is the end result of this shape, essentially turning itself inside out. If we were really to orient this more like this, so you can see we're going to turn it so that that central core convergence point is oriented more like this. If I make this go up and down, it turns into this. This shape still has a limitation in its outside surface and its inside surface communicating. You can consider this shape as being created by the dimpling of a large sphere, where you have giant God fingers that come in from this direction towards the center, this direction, this direction, this direction, and even from this direction from the camera and from away from the camera. And those cause these dimplings. But these, it's like a stretchy fabric. Stretching the fabric, you still have a very clear separation between the outside and the inside. And that fabric is that same bubble of time that is analogous to, but not directly synonymous with, the concept of the Big Bang. An epicenter of total density that then begins to expand outward, and as it expands outward, it creates the moment now. So the moment now is always on the outside of this ever-expanding bubble. And as the bubble gets bigger and bigger and bigger, the interior of the bubble is the past. And anything that's beyond the surface of the bubble would be considered the potentials of the future. And when science that you've currently got does all of this, it doesn't even recognize anything beyond the surface of the bubble. It's like the future doesn't even exist. All we have is the past. It's very limited. But I will tell you the future does indeed exist. And it exists as a series of potentials and uncollapsed waveforms, and that you have a huge impact on which potentials are potentiated or which waveforms are solidified into experienced reality structures. So in that bubble diagram or paradigm, the outside and the inside never talk to one another. And I always use the example of the little ant. Like, this little ant is very busy in your world. He is, because sometimes he's walking across the surface of a leaf, right? But sometimes he's stuck inside of a bubble. Sometimes, like, this is the edge of the bubble. The little ant is inside of the bubble, and he's walking on the inside of the bubble. He's in the past. And then there is his friend, the little ant, who's walking on the outside of the bubble. That's the ant of the future. Then there is the ant of the present. And these guys do not talk to each other. They're on different layers of reality. And the embodiment that is miraculous and expansive about lasagna, embodiment quality that is miraculous and expansive about lasagna, is that it brings together the surfaces of the inside of the bubble and the outside of the bubble so that these two areas of time can connect and communicate. The inside layers over here, that's the past. The outside layers over here, that's the future. And my pen is the little ant. And now I'm on the outside. Now I'm on the inside. Now I'm on the outside. And I never lifted up my pen. I didn't have to jump or fly or do anything weird. All I did was follow that curve because this whole structure is moving. When you lasagna, what you are doing is taking your inside and manifesting it as your outside. Now we're going to get into deep stuff that's about ethics. It's why I rant so much about evil and ethics, because when you have stuff inside, that comes and becomes the outside. Like, you got to take responsibility for stuff. People sometimes think, and it is simplistic and reductionist and erroneous, that their stuff that's on the inside just stays on the inside. It's never been true. Your stuff on the inside affects the outside, and it does have a big impact on other people. For many years, people would be like, my mind is my own, like what I think inside of my own mind is my own private kiddie pool. I'm just doing what I want to do up here in my own private mind, and I'm not connecting to anyone else. Let me do what I want to do. That would be the essence of freedom, except you have to begin to take responsibility, because your mind is connected to other energy force fields through this concept right here. And this platform doesn't want me to talk about that concept right there, because it means that there are real issues if someone's going to do something that is medical experimentation upon themselves. It's not going to only be upon themselves, it's going to be upon all of us. If your mind is only your own and you want to do something that changes your mind, then it just changes you, that's fine. But if you want to change your mind, and your mind is connected to many other minds through the reverberations of this, I dropped my thing. Now I'm holding this up in a not good way. This word right here, through the reverberations of this word right here, then you are going to be impacting other people, and that's their problem too. So we definitely have to be preventative. We can't just be passive and be like, do whatever you want with your insides and your inner realm, because it's going to have an impact on me. This is very, very big. So this goes into questions of ethics. If you have a total boundary, if you're my neighbor and we have a big, giant, tall fence, and whatever you do stays on your side of the fence, and what I do is my own private world, then I don't have a right to criticize you. I'm like, do whatever you want. Do whatever weird, degenerate things you want on your side of the fence. Keep it on your side of the fence. But I don't do those things, and I do this on my side of the fence. And that's that Robert Frost poem, good fences make good neighbors, right? But what if my neighbor is doing stuff on his side of the fence that just goes directly through the fence? What if it's a giant, wide link fence? What if he's burning stuff and the smoke comes into my yard? What if he literally throws his trash through the fence so that it lands in my yard on purpose? This is what I talked about several lessons ago, about the cupcakes that people would eat. Somehow the sprinkles would just jump out of their mouth, showering the entire neighborhood with sprinkles. None of that is acceptable. If you want to eat a cupcake, keep the sprinkles to yourself, or the calories to yourself, I should say. The disruption should be only to yourself. So this, now as we are comprehending that our lives are connected in community, it is not acceptable to simply say that someone else's stuff is someone else's stuff and let them do their stuff because their stuff becomes your stuff. You gotta have a totally different level of interactivity, prevention, responsibility, and yes, prevention of bad things happening in light of this. Because ordinarily in cosmic law you would say you're free and you're free to do what you want to do, and what you do does not have an impact on these other people, and then also you take responsibility for what you've done. So if you've done something good, then it's like, hooray, you did it. You earn $1 million. 10 points to Gryffindor. But if you did something bad, then it's like, oh, you have just gotten yourself in debt by $1 million, and you're never going to earn the money to get out of that. Like, it's 100% your fault. And then that is what happens in terms of your soul journey. Like when I talk about that big giant clipboard, it's based upon what you have done in your life, and you're like, yeah, like this is the math equation of you, and it equals, you're in negative territory, whatever, negative $1 million because you did a bunch of bad things. That's how it should be. And you shouldn't ever have to pay for someone else's $1 million or $1 billion mistake because they made their own mistakes. Now, something in my mind that is actually a mind invader wants me to talk about, what about if your mind is invaded? What about if you have no consent? What about if you cannot furnish consent and you're not fully in control of your own mind? Then how much debt do you owe? Because it always tries to destabilize me by bringing these things up, because I am very clear in my cosmic law presentation. And it attempts to muddy the waters by saying, well, what if a person took a drug and then they're not able to furnish consent and then they do these bad things, and how much do they owe? Do they owe $1 million? Do they owe $10,000? How bad is their crime? And all these different things. Just throw it out the window. Just know that all of that, although these are valid questions, they throw it out the window, because the approach to solving those questions is not an intellectual or rational approach. It is an energetic approach. And in order to be fair in energy, you have to get beyond verbalization, anthropomorphic intellectualization, and even beyond this level of insight that can be erroneous, and get directly to pure math. You can make these assertions in pure math. That's what that clipboard is. And the clipboard is not just a position of power for like special fancy people, like I run the clipboard agency and I'm going to judge you and whether you're good or not. The clipboard is really more like the Bitcoin blockchain. It's really more like anybody can audit this. You know something? You want to know what's going on with blockchain, BTC? Just go on the effing computer. Pardon my French. It'll show up and you can see, oh, look, this wallet's doing this wallet's doing this. That is very similar to what your psychic presence is like, or your esoteric energy. When you are navigating through these time structures, it's not a secret. It's not hidden. In fact, every single move that you make and every single choice point or node that you make is evident and indelible. Everyone can see it and it lasts for forever. No pressure though, right? Because you're going to be like, okay, so this is me at the store. Like, everyone's going to know this forever. Like, should I get orange passion fruit mango juice? Or should I get, parsley, spinach, lemon juice? Like, which one? Orange or green? Which one? Orange or green? Like, you can't live your life that way. You have to be like, this one's the juice for me. I choose it for me. It is indelible, and I take responsibility for the juice that I choose. But you must have an enormous amount of courage in order to live in that way. So never pander. Never pander to your concerns about a perceived audience. And this is also why I am critical of the Christian community. Not only this doctrine of harmful, corrosive levels of forgiveness that keeps people trapped in erroneous time cycles, but also the sense of constant scrutiny for goodness. Many people are more concerned about their assessment of their behavior, how their behavior might be perceived or portrayed, than about the intention with which they're doing something. If you offered them a choice between two different types of juice, be like, Jesus is watching, better choose the right juice, you're going to get judged. And the idea of living your life because you're concerned about the judgment or assessment of a Jesus figure, or like a clipboard figure, those are erroneous motivations. It means that you're not really doing things with the paintbrush of your mind because you want to add to the world and you want to be good and do good. It's because you want to be rewarded and seen as doing good and not do bad because you don't want to be punished. So what if you have flawed calibrations? What if the world around you tells you, orange juice is the only good juice, never get the green stuff. The green stuff is for evil devil worshippers. And you're like, look at me, Jesus, drinking the good stuff, not doing the evil, bad stuff at all, only the good stuff. It's not true, and it is a behavioral limitation, and it is actually an affront to freedom. Because the whole foundation of cosmic law and freedom is that you're making your choice, and you're making your choice. And that choice is you are making from your point of consciousness, from the epicenter of your willpower, not influenced by other people, definitely not influenced by, I dropped my pad of bad paper. Any of this stuff. This stuff, these things, and to a lesser extent, this stuff, which I don't know if it actually even exists, those are all trying to influence your behavior. And then if you go to the grocery store and you're going to buy a particular flavor of juice, like, did I even make that choice? Or was it this stuff run by some kind of this stuff agency that they are now trying to fund for $500 billion that we definitely do not want? But it's interesting that it's out in the open. But no, maybe the this stuff agency told you what to do, or maybe the this stuff agency told you to pick up a GUN and go do something bad to someone. These are all terrible things. The topic right now is manifestation. The inside becomes the outside. If someone else hijacks or hacks your inside, they hack your outside. And that's what they've been trying to do. You got to encrypt and guard your inner world, so that way you are cultivating, generating, gestating, and emitting the reality structures you actually wish to emit. And that emission and the gestation and emission really happens in the process of Flying Rainbow Lasagna. But Flying Rainbow Lasagna is not just a unique event that is completely independent of all of your other body experiences. It's connected to your food. I didn't talk that much, and this is not like an advertisement for me retreat, but on my retreats, the food is always very important, and in my life, the food is very important because the food is the fuel for this esoteric experience that is lasagna. Like, if you took all food away from a person for a week, like, you're not going to get any lasagna. You're not going to be just like, okay, great, like you have zero resources. It would be like if I took away your paintbrush and your easel and all of your paints and supplies and even no sunlight, pull down all the shades, and then was like, okay, now paint a painting. Like, you can't do that. The food that you eat is an inherent part of your lasagna experience. Having a body, basically caring for and elevating your body into these higher states is all about everything that you do to take care of your body. So that includes the basic things of your food and water, but also more subtle things of what you ingest. And that would be light forms. Like I told you for a long time, get rid of your LEDs. So I'm happy that the present regime is making it legal to have incandescent light bulbs again in California. Like, good. And you guys, when you come to my retreat, my house, I have all incandescent light bulbs. Come to my, bathe in the warm glow of my incandescent light bulbs. Light, like you have a light body, the light that you ingest as your light body, and that even includes frequencies. That would be like 5G and other bad stuff that we don't want, but also there are frequencies that we do want. That would be health food for your light body. That's music. And so that's why I make the music that I do and encourage people to listen to it as a fuel and as an uplift for the activity of Flying Rainbow Lasagna. So just saying this again, the lasagna is a spontaneous fruiting body that happens in response to the disciplines of growing your mycelium throughout the rest of your life. And the disciplines and the mycelium, these are allegories for ways of caring for your body. And that even can equate to an activity like taking a bath in structured water that has crystalline imprints in it. You know, everything. And that's how I live my life also. And it's how I, when I share at my retreats. Like, I've made people these wonderful baths with the water that has the crystalline imprints in it. And I do that in my own life all the time. It's like being a dancer. If you're going to be a ballet dancer and you're going to get up on a stage and dance for the Nutcracker at Christmas time, it doesn't mean that you're totally inactive the rest of the year, and then, on November 15th, you're like, oh, Christmas is coming, I better start getting in shape so I can dance the Nutcracker. It's like, no, like every single thing that you do throughout the whole entire year is part of cultivating yourself so that you can then do this dance that is important for you. That is what lasagna is. Every single aspect of our life we spend in cultivation of the body and the energetic presence so that when the spontaneous moment for Flying Rainbow Lasagna comes, we are ready. And it's beyond physical fitness, it is also about your spiritual fitness. And so some of the muscles that we use are the muscles of being able to disengage from reality. Like with your transmission on your car, when you must go into neutral. You disengage from the present gear structure that you are in, go into a neutral, then re-engage at a different rate. And that is a big part of what lasagna is. So you're moving at a not very fast rate right now. And we talked about that in some of my sharings about the zoetrope and how fast your chakras are spinning, and looking at the world and the separation of the moments at the Planck length and how fast you're receiving those moments. when you lasagna, you get out of this, kind of slow world, disengage, go into a quantum state of indeterminacy, and then vroom, 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 get very fast. And you're up at a much faster rate. Rainbow Body used this expression to me one time, like the ceiling fans, it looks like there are 4 or 5 separate spokes. When you turn it on and it whirls around, then it looks like there's one solid thing. That is what happens. Internally, you have these individual parts, but once you start to get moving at a certain rate, you achieve, I would call it like a type of solid state lasagna. Like you're so fast, you are just one big giant blur of lasagna energy going everywhere, and that's like it's a level of achievement. And when you're at that state, you are first of all sustained purely by light. You're using a huge amount of energy, so you do have to eat physical food. Like I eat a lot of physical food. I love eating physical food, but it doesn't matter even if I ate 12 sticks of butter a day, which I don't think I would ever do that diet, but that's an enormous amount of physical calories. That would still not be enough to sustain lasagna. So for food, I eat a lot of nutrient-dense, high energy foods, but it's not enough for me. I also have to sun gaze. I have to get the energy from the sun directly into my body. And then I'm like, oh, now I'm ready to lasagna, because I'm getting like maybe 100 units from my chicken and avocados and whatever, my power snacks and things like that. But I'm getting 1 million units of solar consciousness energy from my direct connection to the sun. So you have to up your consciousness intake, your light body intake, to be able to vroom vroom and get up to those levels. And then also a lot of this is environmental. Like if we had no sun simulator, nothing blocking out the natural sun, no particulates blocking out the natural sun, no pollutions in our body, even before these subcutaneous campaigns, they had all sorts of things to try to put pollutions into your body to be able to begin making this stuff here. Even if we had none of that stuff, then you would have a lot more light actually reaching you. It would be a lot easier to lasagna. And it's very poignant. I did these lessons that are part of this class, the recordings, 10 years ago. I was living in Woodstock. There's a couple of them where I'm like doing sun gazing on a spring morning. And when I tune back in to the moment that I recorded those examples of sun gazing, it's so poignant, because I'm like, like that was before they took away this, and that was before they put up this, and then that was before this became so hard. And it used to be so nice and so easy, and all I had to do was send out my tendril of attention, and I could get all of the sunlight I wanted, and I eat all of my sunlight, and I do all of my lasagna. Like now it's very hard. You guys are coming of age in a war zone. It's very difficult for you to even make that direct connection to the sun, to be able to get enough energy, to get enough oomph, to make that leap. Because what the lasagna is a leap into hyperspace. The difference between this shape here and this shape here is that leap. That this shape here has to be put into a higher dimensional context and then begin this dance motion that makes it be like this. But once you get together enough energy to make that leap, you get paid, ka-ching. This is exactly like running a small business. And I always tell you guys, like I run a lot of different small businesses, because I don't do that much with broccoli right now, because I just have a lot going on and I can't get over to the garden as much as I would like to. But let's say like my clothing business. Like you start off and you're like, well, okay, I'm going to, like design one thing, and then I'm going to sell that one thing. And then when I get enough profit from selling whatever pants, then I'm going to take my profits and then I'm going to design a dress. And then I'm going to sell a dress and pants. And then I'm going to take my profits from that. I'm going to sell a dress and pants and a matching scarf. And you get it. Like this is how you expand a business, right? So your insight, your inner vision is you trying to bootstrap yourself up in a business, where you start off and all you're trying to do is like make a product and get yourself a little bit of momentum. And when you get that momentum, you get insight, you get comprehension on a higher level. And then you're like, oh, I'm beginning to comprehend, I'm beginning to understand. Now what I'm going to do is plow those profits right back into expansion, because I need to learn more, and I need to put that energy into continuing my quest and learning more. And everything that you do in the early parts of running your Christ business is about gaining more infrastructure. Like, I don't make my own dresses, so it's not a perfect analogy, but let's say you make pies. And when you start out, you can make one pie at a time. You're like rolling out the dough, making a pie, somebody buys a pie, and you make some money, right? But you're like, wow, like this would go so much better if I had like 2 pie pans, or 5 or 10. So you save up your profits, and then you buy 10 pie pans, and then you make them 10 at a time, right? You gotta do the same type of thing with the cultivation of your higher faculties, so that you start off with a minimum viewpoint, a mere glimpse, or something without a lot of details. So when you get insights from your eye of insight, sometimes it can be, you didn't have a lot of budget, so it was just that fast. But maybe you got the entire information landscape, but you only got to look at it for a second. Maybe if you don't have a very big budget, instead of seeing the entire information landscape, maybe you will just see 33% of it, but you will be able to view it for 10 seconds. You will see 1/3 of the entire truth for 10 seconds. And please be aware of that. Like when you're getting these partial views, you're like, I might be only getting a portion of this information. I might not be able to access it fully. But you get the most salient 33% that you then internalize, put your profits right back into your business, and then work on getting the next vision. And the accumulation of the energy for this vision is a natural gestational process. It is not something that you should try to supercharge by taking a drug like DMT ayahuasca. I talked about that, I think, 1 or 2 weeks ago. I'm not an advocate for that. That's something that is naturally emitted by your pineal gland 2 times during your life. When you're born and when you die. When you're ready to get into your body, when you're ready to get out of your body. Like, it's like calling the moving truck, okay? DMT is like the moving truck. DMT is U-Haul. The haul is you, all right? And when you need to move, you call U-Haul. But you can't just call U-Haul for be like a trip around the block. That is not right. Because U-Haul is like, hi, I'm here to ferry you to the next place where you're supposed to go. You're like, I don't want to really go anywhere. I just want to go around the block. Like, that's not right. So you start to comprehend what I'm talking about here. And I hope that it's coming through with, comic efforts and not with any kind of Nancy Reagan-esque judgments upon you. That's a reference from a previous century, but she was the presidential wife who said, just say no, like no ayahuasca. So I'm not just telling you to just say no. Christopher says, can you supply some clarity regarding our light body? Is it our Oi, G, B-I, V chakra, or are you relating to, thank you. Your light body is actually all of this. From red, your physical presence, all the way up through violet, your direct connection to divinity. So please do comprehend and consider your physicality presence in your cellular body as a part of your light body, but it is your matter part of your light body. So the overall umbrella of self-definition is that you are made out of light. Some of your light is moving at light speed, some of your light is moving slower than light speed, and it's stuff. It's moving at stuff speed, and it's matter, and it's your cellular body. But really, as we flying Rainbow Lasagne, it's true, we become something that is higher in its frequency emission than just regular matter. I've been calling it S-matter, like spirit matter or smatter. Matter, like your physical body, that is your cellular presence, that is vibrating at a higher rate and is imbued with more energy. So the example of that would be cell-to-cell communication, or the vibration of your DNA. Your DNA can be vibrating in like a slow, sluggish way. It's not really doing very much. It's like very blah. Or your DNA can be vibrating in like super crisp, super fast, wild lasagna patterns all over the place. Boom. It's the same matter, like the same piano, but it's being played very differently. Different types of music, right? Like slow, boring music, or like super fast, jazzy music. And same thing with your cell-to-cell communication. Cells, like here's a cell and here's another cell, and they talk to each other. They don't have tiny little mouths. They have neurotransmitters and hormonal structures that talk to each other. And they say, like, synthesize glucose, like use insulin, like use oxygen. Like they say all these different things, just like they're in a band and someone's like, play G, like, do your thing. They're trying to coordinate what they're doing. And sometimes that cell-to-cell messaging is slow and inept. And the messages get there, he's like, I wish I knew that before, because you were late. And then he says to this guy, and this guy's like, what are you talking about? I don't even remember what this conversation is about. Like, sometimes that's how sluggish the cell-to-cell communication is in the body, when it should be just like that super fast, crisp lasagna. You should have your elbow is talking to your earlobe, and all of this is talking to your belly button, and everything is talking to your brain and your pineal gland, and it should be all at once. All at once. You should have your whole entire presence of self-state. That's the higher gears. When you go into neutral, go into a quantum indeterminate state, you get into lasagna mode, everything inside of you is talking to everything else inside of you. And that's why it's not something that you can just divorce from all of the other stuff that you're doing. Like, let's say the example is food. Let's say if you starved yourself for a week, it would be impossible to ignore that. Let's say you ate lots of genetically modified junk food for a week, nothing but like McDonald's and Twinkies or whatever, and then you go to do lasagna. Your body is going to be so not optimized for lasagna because every food that you ate is out of tune food, and the entire band is going to be out of tune. And they're all going to be like, we can't even fit together, like your digestion and your blood flow and your lipid balance and your brain and your neurology and all these things. So your physical body has a lot of aspects to it that are your light body. I will delineate your anatomy that is your physical body. Anything that's got cartilage carries biophotons. It's not optical light, but it's information light, and that includes your microtubuli. Your neurology, especially like your nerve structures and the myelin sheath around them. Definitely your skin. Your skin is a major aspect of your light body. The light flows through the layers of your skin. You are translucent. That's what that word means. Light flows through. So I'll do this again because I've said this many times in class. Transparent is like a window pane. 100% transmission of light. Translucent means light flows through, not 100% transmission of light. And then opaque means no transmission or minimal transmission of light. And you guys are not opaque, especially as you are transforming into a crystalline architecture internally. That means that the structured water in your body and the cellular structure of the lipid particles of your cell membranes allow in more light. And that you become translucent, the light flows through you. And then at a certain point, you will become transparent. And that means that you will be so perfectly architected that 100% of the light that flows into you flows out of you. It does not mean that there is no you. Like a perfectly clear window pane or a perfectly water clear crystal, the light flows through it. There is no loss of light. There is no loss of signal. But it exists. This exists. It is a thing. 100% of the light that comes into the thing also flows through the thing and flows out the other side. This is really big because what you are not doing is abdicating your personality, abdicating your presence. You're not like, oh, well, that's it. I don't live in my body anymore. Just light flows through my body. No more me. Bye-bye world. You're like, no, I'm still me, but I'm me in a shape that is 100% a transmitter of pure divine truth. And my body becomes a transmitter of pure divine truth. And when you are shaped like that, first of all, your cell-to-cell metabolism and the way that you use glucose and light and water all changes and is transformed and elevated. You move at a much faster rate, vroom, vroom, vroom. You metabolize light and information at a much, much faster rate. And also, you might not even be perceptible to a lot of the people around you that are literally in a different gear. In a different gear of reality, in a different level or layer of reality, where they are moving at a slower rate and they might not be able to even perceive you. But I want you to know, many people practice New Age escapism, which I don't encourage. And that's the sense of like, this place is a total SHIT show. Get me out of here. And I joke sometimes, like, Calgon, take me away. But people used to think that Calgon was an alien. No, Calgon was a bubble bath brand. And the lady was like, I'm stressed about my life. Calgon, take me away. And then you see her in the bubble bath, and she's like, oh, I'm so happy in my bubble bath. But escapism. Calgon is escapism. When you can't deal with your life, get into your bubble bath, right? So for some people, the higher dimensional realms is their version of bubble bath. They're like, I don't like it here. I don't like having to pay my Geico bill or do any of these hard things. And sometimes the eggs get stuck on the egg pan and you really have to scrub. Calgon, take me away. I want to be a non-embodied person who's made of pure light, because then I don't have to scrub the egg pan anymore. This is a drag, right? But I want you to know you can't just treat this as some kind of escapism. It is a one-way journey. When you transcend physical reality and you move to that level or layer of reality, you're not like, well, I think I'll go on a little sightseeing journey out of the time reality where I have to eat physical scrambled eggs, and I'll just float around in a beautiful light bath for a while, and then I'll come back to my horrible tortured existence and pay my Geico bill and scramble my eggs and somehow find the will to exist. No, you will not be returning to your eggs and your Geico. You will be in a different layer of reality on a unidirectional journey that you will not come back from. So please understand, like, you have to appreciate where you are in your journey, not take it for granted, not always be wishing, pining, or wanting for something else, not throw away something good that you have because you're always hoping for the next layer or level of advancement. Celebrate where you are, and then also recognize, like, a lot of deep, profound things have to happen for you to graduate to being a fully transparent person. So just like many of the things I talk about, we don't do this merely for mundane reasons. Like when you can levitate and you're like, well, now I'll save so much on gas, right? Or I'll just levitate down to return my books to the library or to buy some milk from the store. Your goals change. You will be able to levitate, but your goals will change. You will no longer have jugs of milk or library books to have to deal with. You will have different goals and different parameters. What I am doing right now is creating the infrastructure inside of you so that when it is time for you to manifest your inner world as your outer world, you've got some good stuff inside. Because you don't even have that many positive role models or influencers in terms of what would paradise be like. Paradise is dangled in front of you as like an escapist tool and something that you want to experience to get out of the hellishness of your life and to feel free, but not necessarily having the positive infrastructure or a sense of how you even get there. And then I bypassed my whole point. You shouldn't have to escape from reality. We are here not to just get out of a place that is malformed, but to reform this place through Flying Rainbow Lasagna until it's the shape that it was supposed to be. So the flaw in the New Age escapism is that this world is clearly not comfortable, but people just want to be like, get me out of this reincarnational cycle, get me off of this planet, get me out of here, I don't like it here, wah. And that's not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be like, this place is very severely effed up. I don't simply want to leave. I want to fix it. I want to fix it. And that is an essence of these foundations of cosmic law. You're free. You exist. You're in the world. You're in a world that is clearly flawed. How do you respond to that? To the flaws of that world? By getting out of the world, or by staying in the world and shaping the world differently? That's what I am promoting. Shaping the world differently, not removing yourself from the world. And a lot of the New Age escapism relates also to deep genetic implants and binding spells that come from Christianity that are about the idea of dying and having a favorable afterlife. Many cultures have cultural parallels. Die and go to paradise, go to Valhalla, go to the Elysian fields, go to live on the sunbark of Ra, go to the happy hunting grounds, but it always equates to leave the world behind. It's a crappy place. Go someplace better. That's called your afterlife. This is no longer a viable approach. If it ever were viable, please know in this generation it is no longer viable, because you have Flying Rainbow Lasagna. You do not have to die a mortality event in order to transcend an inadequate physical circumstance and then find improved spiritual freedom. What you can do instead is remain in your physical body, vroom vroom, and raise your inner energetic metabolism, eat more light, turn your small business of pie making into a multi-million-dollar, 10 million pies a day, whatever you call it, corporate conglomerate, where you are, so that's the metaphor. In literality, you would be receiving like a fire hose of information directly into your brain. You'd be the most intelligent person in the world, comprehending everything about everything, and then also emitting into the world millions of units of intelligence and divine connection. And that's what Lasagne is all about. Your inside becomes the outside, and the outside becomes the inside. So first of all, and I'm open to many questions and responses on this, a lot of you have trauma from ancient Atlantis. You can tell from my voice. I need a little drink. Hold on a second. Trauma from ancient Atlantis and the bad things that happened or are imperiled to happen, depending upon how we use time language. But bad stuff that happened then when there was a pole shift or a reversal that caused geological instabilities, changes in the material fabric of even the continents, of even the axis of our planet, of the weather patterns of our planet, including the seasons. In ancient Concar Atlantis, we didn't have seasons. We didn't have a 26-degree axial tilt. We had completely different land masses. You guys are all really still stuck in and processing that loss. And as we're in this moment now of another pole shift, a lot of people are like, they're like white knuckling. They're hanging on for the roller coaster ride. They're like, oh no, the same thing is going to happen again. It's just us going up the roller coaster. The same bad thing is going to happen again as before. I'm unhealed. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like, we're going to lose everything. Our culture, our civilization is going to be destroyed. We're not going to have any of this, and we're not going to have any of that. And the waves are going to come in, and this is all going to get washed. We're like this. I'm empathic. I tune into all of this. I feel what you guys are feeling. But I also come with a positive message. That's why I can be so lighthearted. I am not mocking your pain. This pole shift that you are presently experiencing is not north-south to south-north. That would be, let's say this is a magnet. Here's the North Pole and here's the South Pole. And for some pole shifts, it was like, oh, north-south, pole shift, south-north. And when we do that, it's like, oh no, we just shook up everybody's salad dressing. And now the whole entire world is completely effed up. How do we start again, right? That's not how it's going to be. It is not north-south to south-north. It is inside to outside. This present shift of what you are experiencing is the inner manifestation, outer manifestation of your inner world. So your inner world is defined by everything that is inwardly facing. Your hopes, your dreams, your deep passions, your thoughts, your definition of self, your sense of awareness, your sense of cosmology or the story, worldview, how you talk about the world to yourself. And again, plants and animals all have valid inner worlds, even a microbe. When you spray your vinegar cleaner, killing civilizations of microbes. A fruit fly has an inner world. I've thought about this quite often. They sometimes congregate in my trash, right? My trash has a lid. Like, here's the trash and here's the lid. And at night I put away my banana peels in the trash. In the morning I open up my trash to put away like my coffee grounds or whatever. All of these flies fly out. They're like, we're free. We've lived in darkness for so long, but now we're finally free. And all of these things, it's like, to them, they're being liberated from the dungeon of the trash cylinder, and they may finally experience the sunlight. They have their own valid inner world, and our planet has a valid inner world, our sun has a valid inner world, our galaxy, like from the tiniest organism to the largest organism. This is what I'm trying to say in a more serious manner now. And there is not a way to say that one organism's inner world matters more than another. They are really interconnected, so there must be a rapport and a mutualism of how we create a reality that ends up being a paradise for all these different levels of consciousness. So there are some things that are abhorrent, that's crap, that shouldn't be in the world, that God never created. But there are some organisms that are small but annoying. And you're like, I don't want them in me or on me, but they can be in the world. There must be a stratification or a partition where they can exist, but they're not existing in you. And this is a large part of what the genius is of the next level of reality that we are creating, where there's first a discernment, that which should exist and that which should not exist. And if stuff shouldn't exist, of course you send it to entropy. Non-exist. Be like, you're a no thing, a nothing, non-exist. No you, non-exist, right? But then there's a bunch of stuff where it's like, it exists, but it's annoying. I definitely don't want it in me. Where do we put it? What do we do with it? And you have to have a stratification of these different layers of being. Like I told you, when you become transparent, there will be some people who can't even perceive you because you're moving like at whatever, 1,000,000 miles an hour, and they're moving at 2 miles an hour. And that is part of the stratification of energy in the world. And in the stratification of energy in the world, you stick to your layer of reality. You can't be moving 2 miles an hour and be on like the super fast lane of the highway. In California, they've got commuter lanes where it's like, yeah, this is only for people that are carrying 2 or more passengers, and you guys like go at top speed. You can't be there driving at like 5 miles an hour. You will like, people will shoot you. They will be mad in California. So you have to be moving at optimum speed that is appropriate for your environment. There's so many directions I can go in. Learning how to manifest is a part of moving at optimum speed, but also emotional processing is moving at top speed. So moving at top speed is not just like, oh look, like I made a thing. It's also, I made a thing and then I internalized it and I learned from it, and now I'm going to make the next thing better. The ability to process. And that can also be processing negative emotional feedback and information. Let's say I hurt a thing, or I made a thing, or I did a thing, and my thing hurt someone else. And that person is like, you're a piece of shit, stop hurting me. And you're like, ow, that felt bad. But it felt bad because I made you feel bad. Now I have to do better, and I have to fix the thing that made you feel bad. And all of that should be at 100 miles an hour. If that took you 5 years, you're not moving at top speed, and you can't be in the fast commuter lane on the multi-lane highway of life, okay? So manifesting with the flying rainbow lasagna has to do with accelerated consequences and also accelerated wisdom accrual, which is actual learning. And I've taught you also about those levels of consciousness that I deride as the sweat hogs from that old TV show. The sweat hogs were like this. They're like this. We don't like school. We are not going to study. We are bad students. We have this face and this attitude that is like this, like, I'm not going to learn. I'm not going to do my homework. Screw you. I don't want to be here. And there's a lot of consciousnesses that are like that in our world. And some of them made this bad stuff. And they know it's bad. And they are sweat hogs, and they don't want to learn. And you can sit them down in a nice way, and you can be like, this is human resources, we really need to talk. This stuff that you're doing is really not okay, and I'm feeling kind of bad about it and everything. And they will be like, I do not care, lady. Like, put it in a hole somewhere. I don't care. And that's it. They are not here for education, and they are intentionally anti-intelligent. And the systems that they create are also intentionally anti-intelligent. So the time for communication, education, and negotiation is long far behind us. It's more than 5 years behind us. So the time now is only for eradication. You're like, Aurora, like you just said the time now is for eradication. Correct. The time now is for eradication. Yes. Don't waste your time. Pardon me. I have processed these things very fast because I am moving at top rate on the highway. I'm like, oh, blah, blah, I tried. Blah, blah, I tried. Blah, blah, I tried. These guys are sweat hogs. They don't want to learn. Now we escalate to this point. That's it. That is it. It does not make me a cold, sociopathic killer or anything like that. That was supposed to be my sociopathic killer face. No, not at all. I'm a deeply caring, very profoundly loving, and profoundly responsible person. And when you start to get to these higher levels of interconnectivity, like when you're moving faster, you're telepathic, you're connecting to plants, you're connecting to animals, you're part of the entire cosmic continuum of existence. You're like, yeah, like this bad stuff that's going on over here, this is hurting all of us. This stuff over here hurts plants and animals. It doesn't just hurt humans. It hurts a lot of people and things, and it is really hurting time. If you really want to know about what the injury is, it is hurting time by distorting events and taking events out of their natural evolutionary expression and taking away causality factors. So that means, like, technically a thing exists or happens because this thing over here made it happen. But some of this technology not only creates non sequiturs, like, how did that happen? That should not be able to happen. They made a machine that made it happen? Like, no, they didn't even build a machine that made it happen. They just built a machine that wrote a story that made it happen. And that's called fiction. That's like television. It's just a fictional story of things that never actually happened, but just is a story of something that happened. And there are wild differences between actual, real reality and just stories. So in your DNA right now, there's your real DNA of what you're really experiencing and what you're really expressing of divine intelligence. Then there is the layer that's like television, a series of lies, a series of false assertions and distortions, Chiki's right over here, that have been placed upon the true events of your life and of the collective of all organisms who are alive right now. And those fictions are completely invalid, but they have been afflicting your mind and your viewpoint of reality, your cosmology, or your sense of why things happen in the world, and definitely influencing reality creation. Because, as I said, your DNA is connected to time. So if you are a stupid craphead and you can't directly connect to time, what you would do is hack a person. Take over and become the puppet master of a person who is connected to time. And a lot of that is happening right now. So each one of you has to practice having excellent boundaries so that there are no mind-controlled devices or artificially implanted thought structures or propaganda or anybody who's puppet mastering you, so that when you fly in Rainbow Lasagna, you are going to externalize your internal reality. And then the idea is that that is a sacred process that you take full responsibility for, and then you're moving at top speed. Your energy flows back to you, and you internalize the truth, and then you learn immediately, and then you do better. And this has been me on my journey for like 20 years. I hope that it shows. I don't pretend to know everything or to know how to do everything. In order to do Flying Rainbow Lasagna, you don't have to be an expert in the sense of, I know everything and I know how to do everything. Just like being an artist. When I start off a painting or a project, I'm like, I don't know a lot of things. I admit that. I don't know what this will look like. That's part of why it is a fun and exciting exploration for me. Or I recently made some sculptures out of like a type of, self-hardening clay. And I was like, I've never done this before. Let's see how it works. It did not work, but it worked differently than I thought it would work. And then I was like, this part didn't come out the way I wanted to. I would have to buy some kind of a tool. I'm gonna have to grind this part off. This part doesn't look that good. So that is what I did. It's essential to have that attitude. It's not just about humbleness or humility or any kind of thing like that, because you must have a sense of inner strength and empowerment to begin your project and to manifest your internal realm. You have to be like, I have a dream and I know what I want to think about and I know what I want to make happen, but I want you to know you can paint in broad strokes, you can be generalized, you can backtrack, and you can be like, I thought I wanted to do this in yellow. I was so wrong. This needs green. This doesn't need yellow at all. And you're free to do that. So your process of manifestation is a self-exploration, increase in your wisdom, in accrual of more light. It's how you build your light body. It's how you become an artist. Artists and musicians get better by doing. This is why I'm generally supportive of anybody who creates art or music by hand, not so much computer-generated and AI stuff. But if you took the time to draw a painting, even if it didn't come out that great, and even if a person's, their nose or their eyes didn't look exactly quite right, I celebrate you because you know why? You did a thing. And you know why? Because you get better by keeping going. So even though we could look at a portrait that's not professional, we could say, it's pretty good, but it's got some problems. You'd be like, yeah, if I'm going to process that information and have it come back to me and do better on the next one, I'd be like, I agree. Like, this part came out great, but this part not so great. So let me do it better the next time. And then you try to do it better the next time. So in artistic expressions, I encourage people, be honest about their successes, be honest about the parts that are not successful, keep going, and keep working on making greater proportions of success versus failure in the work itself. Your life is your artwork, okay? You don't have to be a complete master to know every single detail of your life before you begin. Sitting at the blank canvas of your life, being like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I have to figure out every single paintbrush stroke before I can even begin. No, you begin with broad strokes. And then also you have to take responsibility and learn from the things that came out ugly. Be like, that was an F up, that looked terrible. Let's fix it. And that's what the aspect of entropy is about. Entropy of events, entropy of errors, entropy of organisms, entropy of structures that do not serve. It's the turpentine rag of your art creation and self-creation process. But you have to go through this process in order to be more finely calibrated and to learn and to grow. And simply being inert, you don't grow. And so that's what the difference between being alive and being like non-alive, but in kind of an angelic realm would be. So when you're not alive or just in this world of pure presence and pure light, but you're not in a cellular body, you don't really have the opportunities to learn and grow that you have when you are embodied. That's why I am here. Important stuff. You're like, Mommy, Daddy, why am I here? And the answer is because you came here to learn and grow in ways that you couldn't learn and grow in the stasis field of a more perfect, divinely perfected paradise realm. But you're not here for punishment. You are here for learning and growth. But these other things and the sweat hugs and their agenda behind them have made this a very a torture existence. Some kids feel that way about their regular school. They hate public school. They could go to school. They're supposed to learn reading, writing, and arithmetic, and they learn like how to get their head flushed down the toilet. They learn about bullying, or they learn about whatever social pressures and whatever, people calling you fat. Like, this is terrible, and this is not what school is really about. This world that we're in right here has largely become about trauma and personal distress, and very little about learning. In fact, you live right now in a very low informational environment that is anti-intelligence. This stuff that they call AI, I call it genuine stupidity. It's not even pseudo-intelligence, it is anti-intelligence, because it studiously avoids any patterns that evidence real intelligence. And that was when I first learned about the sweat hugs, because I came here just being in full alignment with real intelligence. It took me until 2021, so I had been here for 20 years before I ever thought the thought, maybe some of them were doing their math homework wrong on purpose. Whoa. I remember that moment. And I was like, no one would ever do that. But then I'm like, yes, someone would do that. And that's what these people are doing. But it took me 20 years, because that's how innocent I am, to be like, wow, they are doing their math homework wrong on purpose. Because I'm like, oh yeah, no, everyone's coming here to learn, and they're all trying to do their math, but just they're really bad at it. Then I learned, oh, they're not just bad at it. Some of them are purposefully bad at it. And they don't want to get better at it. That's important stuff. What do we do with those guys in Lasagne? Because I already told you that Lasagne is an open source code for your DNA. I am somewhat at odds with some aspects of the open code community of sharing of intellectual properties. The Lasagne is my intellectual property, but I don't require that you give me a subscription or a copyright or anything like that, but you should give me the respect that I'm the person who innovated this. You should defer to me as its originator, and you should definitely defer to any, questions about its manifestations or its use or its application to me. Like, I know about this stuff. I'm the originator. So open source code also does not mean that it is unencrypted, that you can get into my computer or whatever. If I created a OS platform And I'm like, anybody can use this OS. Doesn't mean that you can read all of my emails that are on my OS or look at my bank that's on my computer. I'm like, no, like that's all encrypted. That is my personal stuff. But if you want to use my operating system, you can use my operating system and do something similar. So no, you can't just reach into my body and access all of my Flying Rainbow Lasagna energy, because I have access to infinite energy. There's a lot of evil things that are like, oh kid, nice energy you got there. I'd sure like to access an infinite amount of your energy. Hijack the process of inside to outside. And I'm like, no, sorry, we won't be doing that today. You'll not be accessing my infinite well of energy because you are crap. And you don't get to access my energy. And so this is the essence of boundaries, and why I emphasize that in my teachings with you guys so much. Although it might make me less popular as a person in the world of spiritual New Age attainment, I am not telling you just hug everyone, we're all friends, we are all one. Like, couldn't you see like a person being like, oh, like we're all one, time to hug everyone. I'm like, stop hugging, you're not all one. Some things are crap and deserve to go to entropy. Stop those hugs immediately. I'm like, Aurora, like, aren't you part of this New Age ascension party? I'm like, we have to redefine what, boundaries are before we can do this New Age ascension. That's my comical, very hyperbolic way of being able to describe what's been going on, but I think it's apt so that you guys can kind of see it acted out there. It's easy to put on a saccharine face and say, I love you all. It's much, much harder to say, I don't love you all. And some things are aberrances and things that should not actually be in existence and should be eradicated from existence. But also when you say eradicate some things, people, characteristics, organizations from existence, it's really hard not to sound like an evil madman. It is. I know I get taken for evil all the time when I say these things, because when you set boundaries, then all of these judgments come up, and the judgments are also coming from the community of, I call it like fake Christianity. That's like doctrine of infinite forgiveness, no responsibility for anyone, do whatever bad thing you want, who will forgive you. That does not serve, and that is not divine, and that has allowed for an enormous amount of suffering to happen in the world. So I get judgment from that community and from people who have internalized those ideals. And you know what? In my own life, when I set boundaries, I might have to open the door for Cheeky. Hold on a second. Setting boundaries against demons. Hold on a second. The demons who attack me and many others, they hate it when you set personal boundaries. And that's demons, which is not a censored word, but also this stuff, which is also demonically oriented, hates it when you set boundaries. So when you say, for example, to this stuff that's trying to construct inside of you, that it's not allowed to use your own stuff. Oh, hold on a second. This is not going to work. I had to stop my dog from barking at the neighbor DOG because she knows that it is an NO. So that's a perfect example of setting boundaries. And it doesn't mean that you don't love someone or something. It means you do love them. I love my dog. I want her not only to just be socially appropriate in terms of who she barks at, but she had a tussle with that dog, and that other dog tried to take a chomp out of her. So you're not allowed to do this for very specific reasons. So setting boundaries is not just a power abuse or arbitrary, whimsical thing to do like the Red Queen in Alice in Wonderland, like off with her head, like now I'm this, now I'm that, everybody move to the left and do what I say. It's not like that at all. Setting boundaries is a way of saying that you love someone or something because you want to keep them safe or prevent negative behavior or negative outcomes. The demons that are inside of people and the demons that come in through technological interfaces hate it when you set boundaries. When you say, like, stop using my glucose, stop using my stem cells, that's me. Stop using me to attack me. It hates it. And it's like, I'm your friend. Let me have your glucose. It's like, no, you're not my friend. Get out of me now. It's a parasite. Get it? Parasite in the body form and also parasite on the etheric or astral level. And they hate it when you set boundaries. And that also would equate to, like, if you had a person, like, sleeping on your couch and you were like, get out of my house. Like, you don't pay rent. Stop sleeping on my couch. And he'd be like, hey man, like, I thought you were cool. You're not nice at all. Blah, blah. It's like, set a boundary. They're never going to like it when you set a boundary. Demons and horrific politicians and horrific technocrats and people who are trying to get $5 billion with a B dollars to be able to create telehealth, HELLF, stuff in your body aren't going to like it when you set a boundary. They'll also say, hey man, I thought you were cool. Don't be manipulated. Be like, I am cool, and you have to stop what you're doing. This is not acceptable. So, manifesting the inside to the outside, what happens when someone who is a naughty or crappy person gets a hold of the lasagna? It is open source code. That means that anybody can run this operating system, different than my Tuesday morning dance class, which is by invitation only. What happens if someone who is not cool gets the lasagna? Do they get to manifest all of their inward poops and doo-doos and terrible thoughts outward into the physical world? And the answer is really no. What happens when something that is bad, wrong, evil, malevolent, or poorly shaped internalizes or comes in direct contact with the lasagna informs that thing of its non-existence. So I told you already about the percentages. Perhaps you are 95% good, valid, life-affirming characteristics, and 5% evil, life-destroying, and harmful pathogenic stuff. Some people are 95% pathogen and maybe only 5% original life-affirming consciousness. If a 95% pathogenic organism or organization were subjected to the concept of and the energy of the lasagna, it would be informed of its 95% non-existence. The message that it would get from embodying the lasagna would be, 95% of who and what I am and do is totally erroneous, invalid, and does not actually have existence, and does not have a causality factor, and does not live in the world. It is like a false television broadcast of fictional reality. And then if it's 95%, like there's not enough to sustain it, like it would go into a non-being state. 5% is not enough. Like if you had only 5% of your cells of your body working, and 95% of the cells of your body were dead and like frostbite or, whatever, just kaput. Could you be alive? It's like, no, of course not. You would be dead, Deadsville dead. You have to have your whole entire body alive to be alive, because these things are also going to come along and be like, but I'm 5% good, blah, blah, blah. It's like 5% is not a viable life. You have to have enough of yourself to be alive. Let's say in a better way. If you built a ship to go on the ocean and you only had 5% of its hull, would it be able to float, or would a lot of water get in and it would get destroyed? It would get destroyed. 5% is not enough to keep it afloat. You got it? You got it. So these percentages are non-arbitrary, and they're not just my whimsy, and it's not just me trying to be a power abuser in a world full of power abuse. I'm sorry, I'm so sarcastic today. Maybe I might be slightly sleep deprived because I had so many adventures yesterday. But if you want to know what I did, I went to a more like urban area, kind of closer to LA than where I live, so that I could buy a used vehicle that I've been saving up for. So that was fun and exciting. And Chika and I now have an awesome, upgraded vehicle that we're going to be driving around in. But it meant that we were out kind of late and didn't get home and really get to sleep until midnight. So that's why my vocabulary is not as good, and I think I'm also more bitter and sarcastic than I usually am. So thank you for understanding. But when something that is 95% wrongness comes in contact with the fire hose of truth or touches the quantum object, it is affected by the truthful information that it does not exist. And the 95% of it that does not exist goes into a state of non-existence. And then the 5% that does exist is like, whoa, crap, I'm not enough to keep this thing afloat. I gotta do something else. And what really happens is that 5% or whatever tiny percentage that might have been a real sustenance goes to the timeline it's actually supposed to be upon, which again, if these are parallel timelines, and maybe it's over here on the far periphery where it's only 5% of its true self, that 5% it really needs to rejoin itself on one of these more viable timelines over here. Like here, you're 89% yourself. Go be with your 89% self. Don't be here on the 5% self level, because what will happen is, just like a ship, there will be a giant tsunami wave that will come over your tiny little 5% framework, and the whole entire thing is going to break like toothpicks and be just nothing. There will be nothing to sustain that. And that event of that wave, or the analogy of that wave, it is a time event. We will all face that time event. It does not have to be a mortality event. For some people who are poorly structured, it would be a mortality event. Again, I refer to the previous traumas of pole shift and what people would expect from that. They're like, everybody's gonna die, everybody's gonna die. No, not everybody's gonna die. And if people have taken this class, and especially those who have been with me for so many years, then you have a very, very excellent opportunity to not die, and to have a wonderful stability in your life, and to move forward, and to transform, and to become fully transparent, because you've been literally cultivating yourself and building the ship of your existence for many, many years, and that you have a foundation that will keep you afloat and carry you through unimaginable events. Like, we're talking about people that can't navigate reality structures that are going to be outside of their worldview or their cosmology or their description of what can be in the world. Just groundbreaking, transformative events. And some people in this class will have all of the muscle and integument that you need to be able to be like, wow, like everything has changed. Like that, what used to be like that, but now this is like this, and now I have to be different like this, and then this is how my mind grows. Like, you guys will be able to learn and grow and have the stability and also the flexibility to be able to self-construct into new and interesting directions. These other guys won't. And also, I validly send out the information in a very loving way to some of these things that don't exist, that they don't exist. It is literally the best message that they can receive. It is kind of like a talk in human resources. Like, I'm human resources. And they come in and they're like, I'm like, sit down. I'm so glad that you're here. We have a lot to talk about, but mostly it's the fact that you don't exist, and you don't actually get to have access to resources like matter and energy and be sustained with time on this timeline. So you'll have to be leaving now. Like, when you are losing your job, we'd like you to sign this piece of paper here and clear out your desk, and yes, but thank you so much, but you can't be here anymore, and it is time for you to go bye-bye. That is exactly the type of conversation that I have with these things. And then, of course, there are always sweat hugs. There was like, blah, blah, blah. Then, of course, I have to escalate, which has been the past 5 years for me, which is, I'm not always like a very nice human resources person. Sometimes I'm like, oh, like, you don't want to clean out your desk. Well, maybe we have to have you escorted out of the place. Maybe that's how we have to do it with you. But that is what we're talking about. But I have to talk about these things with you because I know that some of you are really intelligent. You're like, Aurora invented a tool for outer manifestation. Some people have crap inside. How is this mitigated? Because you don't want to Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, which is my shorthand for manifest your greatest fears. Like, don't think about my greatest fears. Don't think about greatest fears. It's my greatest fears. Oh no, I manifested it. Don't be concerned about that. That will not be your experience. If you have a greatest fear and you go into a moment of pure potential where you manifest everything that's inside of you, you don't manifest whatever it is. Your spiders or your clowns or your Stay Puft Marshmallow Man or whatever are the boogeymen that you fear or your childhood fears. What you manifest is the healing of those childhood fears so that you are not beholden to them or limited by them anymore. And it's not something so pat or simple as saying, like, oh, you just have to stand up to them. Like, all of a sudden you'll be overrun with clowns. You'll be like, clowns, clowns, clowns. And they'll be like, I will fight against you, clowns. Now I am more powerful than you. And whatever, you pop all their balloons and make them go away. That is facile. That is not what we're talking about. But we're talking more about healing the foundational traumas. That is why you have certain fears, so that way they will not be your fears anymore. So please know that you are not manifesting your fears in this moment of ascension. Also, please know that over the past 5 years, our ascension has been very hijacked and diluted, as many things have been manifested with our energy against our willpower and consent. These are some of the things that were manifested against our willpower and consent. And I do not consent, and I am not responsible for them. So that's big, because people would be like, well, Aurora, you're flying rainbow lasagna. Did you flying rainbow lasagna those naughty spike proteins into existence, or this or that? I'm like, snap. Like, no, actually, I did not. I did not pay for those. Like, it's like you look at the budget, like, who paid for the spike proteins? I'm like, not me, not me. It's paid. Go call human resources. This is not my job. No, I truly did not manifest these things. In fact, you guys can tell from my many years of teaching before the worldwide pandemic that if you were to instantly manifest what was inside of me in one light switch-like moment, you would manifest a lot of lasagna. You would manifest a lot of these higher dimensional concepts of harmonics, divine intelligence integration, and transforming systems by adding an additional hyperspace reality. That's what you would get from me. You would get super elevated stuff from me. You wouldn't get any of this low-level, satanic, Luciferian, behavioral control, like total crap show stuff. I do not have to take responsibility for that. But you know me also that I respond to it, because just ignoring it doesn't mean that it gets better. But you don't have to say, oh, flawed New Age shadow work, that stuff is here because I made it be here, I therefore need to unmake it. I'm like, that stuff is here not because I made it be here, but because some crappy thing put it in my reality against my willpower. I am definitely going to get the rag with turpentine and wipe that stuff out, because it should not be here, okay? So that's a really critical distinction. You don't have to take responsibility for the creation of something to uncreate it. And you don't have to keep this tool away from evil and crappy things so that they don't create something that is more crappy. They will access this, and they will come to the truthful knowledge of their own non-existence and actually go into a non-existent state faster. That's what really happens. The more lasagna they eat, the more of this quantum energy that they interact with, the more they are exposed to these concepts, the more that I radiate these concepts outward in a undiluted fashion, the more that they receive them, and they're like, oh, and I don't exist. That's them. So sometimes, I do a lot of psychic battles, and sometimes the battles are against different systems and organisms and organizations, and the conversation always ends up in me telling those things that they don't exist. So it could be like a conversation, a legal battle, a battle with projectile weapons, a battle with energy in the psychic realms, any of these things, and then in the end, it always ends up in, oh, and by the way, you don't actually exist, and that's it. It's like, kapow, that's the death shot. Or like, I don't actually exist, and they go into a state of non-existence. That's it. But it takes a lot of posture muscles on my part to be like, yep, I'm talking with this whole thing that doesn't actually exist, just so that I can get to the conclusion of blah, 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 blah equals, you don't actually exist. So in my lighthearted sharing, I talk about this as like the Swamp Thing formula. That's from comic books. Swamp Thing is a comic book character. He looks like a plant man, and it's because he was a botanist, and he made a magic elixir out of a plant that turns you into more of whatever you are. It doesn't give you anything you don't already have, just like the lasagna, but it turns you into more of what you already are. And because he loved plants so much, turned him into a plant man, right? And these other guys in Swamp Thing land, they're like, I want to get the magic too. I'm going to drink it too. And they were like super effing evil, and they drank the elixir, and it just made them super effing evil. And then they just turned into like a puff of smoke and dried up and blew away, because that's all that they really are. Like, please know that that is the truest expression of cosmic law, that when it is unfettered and when you are exposed to the fire hose of truth, if you don't exist, it's like super fast on the highway of comprehension. Ding, you don't exist. And then that thing pops out of existence. And that literally means it does not occupy time anymore, no longer accesses time flowing to it or through it anymore. All of that is not about, it's merciful. It's not about suffering. It's not like, oh, like now I'm really going to torture that thing that tortured me a lot. Take your non-existence, you thing. It's like, no, just non-exist. And all of this is very mathematical. So I want to talk a little bit about your DNA and the specifics of your DNA. Because when you're doing the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, what are you doing with your DNA? How is Flying Rainbow Lasagna expressed through your DNA? Your DNA has, this is like one yarn of your chromatin. Your DNA, when it's a chromosome, is like a sweater. When the sweater is unfurled, it's like a giant tangled up ball of yarn called chromatin. And when you have just this single strand, this is one aspect of yarn. And it is normal during a certain portion of your DNA's lifespan for it to be split apart, like the zipper has been unzipped, and then you have an upward and a downward aspect of these protein structures. And this is so that RNA, which you're seeing this word right here, messenger RNA, can read the teeth on the zipper. And every place where you've got an A, it's going to have as its dance partner a U. And every place where you've got a T, it's going to have as a dance partner its A. Sorry, that A and U is going to confuse you. Just imagine it's a T. A always fits with T. T always fits with A. C always fits with G. And that's what the body does. It uses it kind of like a logic puzzle. Your body's like, well, I've got a G over here. What fits with G? That's going to be a C. And I've got a T over here. What fits with T? It's going to be an A. And it puts together these strings of alphanumerics that are physical representations through protein structures of information, in the same way that phonemes, sound structures, carry information through your linguistic structures, all right? So that's a normal part of what your DNA is doing even before lasagna was ever invented. Your body unzips and uses that as a logic problem to be able to then recreate copies. And why do you recreate copies? Because this is the rare books section of your library. And you do not want to get like coffee and soy sauce and greasy fingertips on your rare books. You want to send out a copy of the blueprints out to your workman on the work site, and so that's what the mRNA messengers are. It's like from your DNA to your RNA, and your RNA to the protein manufacturing processes in your body, so that way they can mess it up as much as they want to. And you still have the original copy is in its museum box somewhere, staying exactly the way it's supposed to be. When your DNA is unzipped, it is relatively unstable. That means that there is, it's a story that hasn't been settled. It's in a state of quantum indeterminacy. It is literally not a stable shape, like it's been unzipped, so it doesn't have tensile strength to it. In this little diagram that I have, and please do take time to watch the whiteboards, because it's really worth it, because I talk about things in very great detail and without all of my daily ramblings in these and rants in these sharings here in these lectures. The lasagna is not a static object, so you can imagine this in its oscillating form and in its rotating form. It's a very dynamic energy object, and it holds that DNA in its unzipped position in a way that stabilizes it. So unzipping your DNA is a normal part of DNA behavior. But usually it unzips, does copies, and rezips. With lasagna, you can insert lasagna as a placeholder and a stabilizer so that your DNA doesn't have to zip back together. And also what that means is you are then able to, let's see if I can get an annotation here. Miracles occurred. You can make new combos. Instead of just going across, here's T always goes across to A. Here's G always goes across to C. But when you keep the lasagna there and you keep this open and stable, then you can connect this T to this A over here. And you can connect this A to this T here. Oops, that wasn't the best, but I think you got it. Let's make it better because I'm a perfectionist. These guys go like this. Here's a C who's going to connect to a G right over here. Here's a G who's going to connect to a C over here. You start to get all sorts of very interesting, fun, and complex patterns that you couldn't get when all you could do was go directly across, as these purple lines show, directly across T to A, C to G. All of a sudden, your spaces can look like boop, 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 boop. You get all of these amazing new ways of being able to rearrange the same letters. So it is for this reason that I say that it's directly analogous to, what if I gave you any book or silly how-to manual or even a comic book? You could, if you can rearrange the letters, and if that book contains all of the 26 letters of the English language, you could write anything out of that book. I could give you my old car manual for the 2004 Chevy Malibu, and you could take all of those words and letters and rearrange them so that it tells a completely different story. You could rearrange it to tell War and Peace or Romeo and Juliet. You have the words and the letters to be able to do that. So your body is like the Chevy manual. It's just a silly PDF. It is not great literature. And you can, with the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, unzip areas of your DNA so that they are accessible and rearrangeable. And you can rearrange those letters into new directions that write a much better narrative and a much better story. So some of the not that good aspects of your DNA might be like, yeah, like you live for like 60 years and then your body looks all old and decrepit and then you die. That's the story of you. And you're like, I don't like this story. That's not Romeo and Juliet. I'm going to take that story and I'm going to change it. I'm going to change around the letters and change around the structures of events. And I'm going to turn it into a story of regeneration, rejuvenation, healing, expansion, redefinition of my flight through time, and then you're able to live for hundreds or thousands of years, and you don't look old and decrepit, and you certainly didn't die, and also you don't just sit around doing nothing like you do a bunch of super cool stuff. That's the equivalent of taking the basic letters of a very unfulfilling document and turning it into great literature. That is what is truly available to you as you do Flying Rainbow Lasagna. That's what is really happening on a Flying Rainbow Lasagna level. So on the one hand, yes, you're manifesting your inside to your outside. It's an artistic process. You don't have to be perfect, and you're learning and growing from it. But on another hand, what you're doing is adding insight, information, and organization and greater levels of layer to aspects of your DNA that have been dumbed down or diminished through the various splicings, genetic modifications, and editings that have happened in the human body over millennia. And you are returning yourself to your multidimensional presence because you also can Flying Rainbow Lasagna with parallel aspects of yourself, who you are on different timelines, and you can get inspiration from them about how they are shaped. Like if you've got the potential through your numbers and letters of your book to turn it into anything, you could look to your parallel selves and you could be like, well, I have that potential inside of me. Like that's a parallel self that became a marathon runner. And you're like, I have that inside of me, or like you have that inside of you. And you can take, let's say, like an imprint or a snapshot of that version of you as a marathon runner when you're doing your lasagna dance and internalize it into who you are on this timeline. And then it doesn't instantaneously mean that you will be a marathon runner like that movie, Everything All at Once Everywhere. That was a bit facile. They were just like, download Kung Fu skills now, and you get the Kung Fu version of yourself, and all of a sudden you have all of these jujitsu skills. No, that's not what we're doing here. But let's say that there are aspects of healing and transcendence that other versions of yourself have already mastered that you haven't mastered yet. You can Flying Rainbow Lasagna with those parallel aspects of self and get that information. So a simple analogy would be like a communicable disease like the flu or bronchitis or something like that. And you're like, yeah, this version of you doesn't know how to get it out of your body, but this version of you, one timeline over, figured it out. Lasagna with that version of you, get the imprints of what you need, create the antibodies, and then heal yourself on this timeline, all right? Let's say another one. Someone came to me one time and they had had birth trauma, like the way that they were taken out of their mother's womb was like with the forceps or whatever, and it created like problems on their brain and their, facial muscles and things like that. and they're like, they've spent their life trying to heal from this. Is there a version of them that didn't have birth trauma? And it's like, of course there is. You find the parallel version of self that was born naturally without those interventions, and then take imprints of how their book of self is arranged and imprint it onto yourself. And none of this steals from the other person. Like when you read a book, you're not taking the words off the pages. You leave the words on the page and you simply internalize the information. Then you return the book to the library. This is being a good library patron. You do not steal the books. You do not tear the pages out of the books. Never. Never do that, okay? So you don't take anything away from anyone else, but you're able to share information. This is the essence of what I talk about when I'm talking about open source code. So the ability to do that is an ability that everybody is gaining. It's not just my ability. It doesn't mean that you can jump into me and steal a bunch of stuff from me. I am encrypted. Get your own stuff. No, you can't steal my stuff, but you can access information from parallel versions of yourself, future versions of yourself, past versions of yourself, and also other people in other time places. But you can't just like snip out their DNA, carry it across time, and then surgically implant it into your own body cells. That is not allowed. And you can't steal their energy. So let's say I've been lasagning for 20 years and I've got a lot of energy. I wouldn't say I'm rich or something like that. I'll just wave my diamonds at you. No, I'm joking. But let's just say I've been lasagning for a long amount of time and have big energy force fields, right? You're not allowed to drain my giant energy force fields. Just like whatever, Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, you're like, yeah, those guys are billionaires. Are you allowed to just take money out of their bank account? No. Can you see that they're billionaires? Yes. Can you have their house? No. Can you have their wife? No. So you can perceive their wealth, but you do not innately have access to their wealth. And it's a volitional choice about whether they want to share their wealth with you. Same thing with me. I am Lasagna, and I am literally here to create a protective force field around this planet and to protect you guys so that you can even feel freedom. I remove a lot of the architecture of other people trying to impose their willpower upon you or to reduce your cognitive abilities, because when you can't see and know, then you're not really in freedom. So I make sure you guys have the optimum circumstances for actually living in freedom. And also, like, I have a lot of energy force field, but that doesn't mean that you guys get to take all my energy from me. No, of course not. But I can share it with the people that I choose to share it with. Like, if Elon Musk wants to invite you over to his house, be like, go have dinner with Elon Musk. Like, that's fine. But he doesn't have to invite the whole entire world to his house. That is not boundaries. So I don't have to invite the whole entire world into my lasagna realm. My lasagna is a hyperspace realm. I get to be selective about who is there. It's like having a house. You guys are invited into my realm. That's like why I do my retreats and why I do this class. I am selective. Some of you are invited to be a part of my lasagna force field, and some people are overtly disinvited. I'm like, not you. You guys, yes, not you guys. This is also very different than some of those spiritual teachers or viewpoints in the spiritual realm that's like, all are welcome. Come and eat my rice and beans. I will have a big giant, dinner on the park. All are welcome. And I'm like, no, that is not what I'm doing at all. I am making very, very selective lasagna that is not just like a giant pan of lasagna that's in the middle of the park that anybody can eat. That is just very obvious. So I have to say these things, and I have to make these distinctions, and maybe it might, there might be some judgment, because there's also that whole thing of like the Christian judgmentalists that are like, but the fishes and the loaves, like, you must share, and everybody must eat your food. And I'm like, no, like, I don't have to share my food with everybody. And if people treat me like crap, I don't have to share my lasagna with them. And I get to have very strong boundaries. And I definitely have boundaries against the sweat hogs, because they literally do not want to learn. They would like to eat all of the energy or lasagna in the world, and they do not want to learn. Okay, so wait. Christopher says, wow, thank you for this clarity. It helps greatly. Good. I'm very, very glad that that got through. And Michael, thank you. Michelangelo says, hi, Aurora. You've mentioned muscles and strengthening several times. You know my situation, and although I do it in my mind, perhaps it's not enough. It is enough. So I really want you to know, and I'll say this, of course, without sharing too much of your personal life with other people, but Michelangelo has, some paralysis and some physical limitations. And I want each one of you to know that the lasagna is not a goal-oriented dance. It's not like, oh, I'm going to do this lasagna, I'm going to, reconnect neurological pathways, and then one day I'll be able to blah, 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 reach my goal, by being able to make my arm move like this, or by being able to do a particular movement in the world. The lasagna is a process. It is process-oriented, not goal-oriented. So it is about the process of self-exploration, of externalizing the internal, and of making things better. And we're in a complete work in progress. Each one of you, like whether you have a body that is considered physically healthy and has full mobility and ability, each one of our bodies can improve. And when I do my Tuesday morning dance class, I'm always telling everyone that it's not like one day you'll be a perfect person and then you'll be allowed to lasagna, because there's so many things that are on Instagram that are like 30-day program to do the splits, or learn how to dance like a ballerina, or one day you'll be an acro yoga handstand person. And there, of course, it's hard, it's good to inspire others towards greatness, but sometimes this is a lot of pressure and commodification. The real thing is that this is about coaching for money, pressure and commodification, and it instills in people this sense of not being good enough until, or maybe 5 pounds. So many people have that little thing inside and they're like, if I could just lose 5 pounds, and then I would be able to do all these different things. And I tell you in my class on Tuesdays, who you are in this moment is enough. So because the lasagna is very much about having a body. It is very physical of what we are doing. It's not just an intellectual approach. And I recognize that there are so many cultural pressures on people to be perfect, pressures on appearance, pressures on fitness, pressures on body size and shape, pressures in athleticism and dance. And I don't connect with any of those communities, and I really am trying to change, especially like the world of ballet, to make it more inclusive and things like that. But let's say the world of dance. I say dance is for everyone. Dance is for everyone. If you have a body, dance is for you. If you have limited mobility, dance is for you. And the dance is not only about flying rainbow lasagna, reaching a goal and saying, well, like me, because when I share my story, I used to not be able to do as many things, and then I danced for many years, and now I can do more things, and then I keep dancing, and I'm always broadening and expanding the things that I can do. But the goal is not, it's not like I 20 years ago was like, I really need to be able to do blah, blah, blah. I'll really be lasagnaing, by the time I can dance like that. Every day that I danced in whatever capacity I could was enough lasagna. Some days I danced sitting down and mostly from the torso up. And then some days I was able to be more expansive, and now I'm in a different level of my physical health and vitality where I can dance with a lot more, capabilities and athletic abilities. But for each one of you, I want you to know who you are in this moment is enough. So you don't have to follow a particular fitness regimen, reach a goal on the scale, or reach a level of, a goal of your mobility in your body. Because lasagna is really about the dance of your DNA. And at the level of your DNA, you are free. You are not limited in any way by physical ability, mobility limitations. DNA is really our connection to the world of light and pure potential, and is really about the highest levels of really your consciousness as it defines your cellular existence. Your cellular existence is derived from and a reflection of your DNA and its abilities. So each one of us can move our DNA. This is very, very big. Although there are these things that really have tried to stop humans from moving their DNA effectively. I call it DNA straitjacket, and that is actually one of the greatest crimes. The biggest cosmic criminals in our world right now are those that are trying to place bergerons or genetic limiters inside of people, especially if you have a genetic gift, to stop you from accessing that genetic gift. It's totally a crime, and I fight against it with everything I can. So no, I'm definitely like, Hulk smash those bergerons. They are not allowed to limit you or me or anyone, because it's about being a wild and free and feral flying rainbow lasagna. So for anybody that has chronic disease or limitation, or like that person that I knew that had birth trauma, you dance every day to the fullest of your capacity. There will be changes and emancipations in the ability level of the body, and those are definitely always to be celebrated. But it's not like a goal that means that you have to defer your feelings of freedom until you get to that level. If you dance today, you are free in that moment. And then, of course, your physical body and your cellular body will change and transform when you reintegrate with it. So what you do is go into neutral, dance like a lasagna, quantum indeterminate state, not connecting to physical reality. Then reinsert yourself back into your physical reality structure, like back into your human relationships and your job and your emails and your Geico bills, but everything has changed and shifted. And you keep doing that incrementally. And doing that incrementally means a lot of things shift around you. Your personal relationships shift, your relationships with money shifts or resources shift, and your relationship to your body shifts. Basically, your relationship to matter shifts. Matter and energy become combined. When you make the inside the outside, you're not just manifesting the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. What you're really doing is creating a new form of matter that responds directly to mind or consciousness or intelligence. And what is special about your body, even if your body has experienced injuries or diseases in this world, or even amputations, is that your body becomes responsive to mind, or pure consciousness, or pure energy. Beyond psychosomatic stuff that science has talked about for a long time, we're talking about matter that does stuff. So, like in the traditional materialist view of the world, they're like, this is stuff. This is plastic. It is stuff. But when we call it S-matter or S-matter, or this spiritually imbued or energetically imbued matter, it's matter and energy on the same side of the Einsteinian equation. When we have that type of matter, that matter responds directly to mind and directly to consciousness. And we're talking about making matter with your mind. That is on the level of what has been previously only recognized from like spiritual leaders who are almost like describing themselves as deified. Some of these yoga gurus, they are known to like wave their hand around really, really fast, and then like, boom, they open their hand and there's something there. And maybe it might be sacred holy ashes from the Agnihotra, or it might be a gem or something like that. And I think sometimes it's sleight of hand, but I think sometimes it's real manifestation. And I have shared with you in this class my own stories of manifestation, my magical tiny screws that I have manifested. I did not wave my hand around, but I had to stick my hand into the area of quantum indeterminacy, which was my, workbench bucket of bolts, and see if I could find it in there. That's what you need to do. So you need to have some level of quantum indeterminacy to fool the intellect, and then the opportunity for your mind to actually manifest the matter. Then you experience the manifested matter, and then your intellect is like, yeah, I have to think about this. Like, did I just manifest this thing? And you're like, I manifested that thing. And then your mind is going to say, no, I doubt myself. I did not manifest that thing. And I think I'm crazy, and I think I should shut up. This is what the mind says. When you look at the tiny screw and you're like, I know I manifested that. It's right there. And so I have a few sacred little objects that I manifested. And I don't share all of them with the world. I'll tell you guys about my tiny screws, but some of my other things are secretive. And that's because they're magical. I don't want anybody else to pee and poop all over my magical things and saying I don't believe it, you're crazy, and all these different things. I'm like, no, these things really happened, and that really is real. And I look at that thing and I hold on to that tiny piece of matter, and I'm like, that is the most valuable, tiny piece of matter it could possibly be, because I made it with my mind. And whenever I have one of those types of moments or a manifestation portal, I always try to bring it to, may I manifest that which is so valuable that it cannot be purchased with money in a store, all right? This is big stuff. Like, let's say you know someone who has a hole in their heart or whatever, they're having like a heart murmur, they need to have surgery, but maybe you could manifest cells that could close up the heart murmur and fix and heal it without this whole type of, expensive, dangerous type of surgery. And they just go to the doctor, and the doctor would be like, this is bizarre, like somehow the hole in your heart just went away. Well, you need to get out of my office now, and P.S., save your money. You can now go on a wonderful vacation. And it's just because someone made matter with their mind and stuck it into this guy's heart. This is what we should all be doing, okay? So what I just gave you was some more of my Lasagne value system. Of course, we always want to ask for consent. Like, I do drive-by healings and stuff like that, but technically you're supposed to get consent. But when you get to these higher levels of capability and you can just make matter and you see that there is suffering and you see that you can alleviate it, you can just make matter and you can just fix things. And you start to do that as part of your experience art project of the world, and seeing how that rectifies events. Because when you do that and you fix someone's aorta, then they're still going to be here. Instead of them being in their grave, they'll still be here, and you would just secretly know, like, I put something in that guy's heart and that's why he's still here. But you don't have to like say anything to him, and he's got a bunch of money because he didn't have to have a bunch of medical bills. Like, these are the types of miracles that happen. Here's another one. Let's say there's some important plants that are in an area of the world and they're just not getting enough water. And you're aware of it, but you're like, how in the world am I going to irrigate those plants all the way over there? Like, I don't want those trees to die. I want them to get water. How can I get them water? And what if you can simply flying rainbow lasagna and manifest water at their root system? You don't even have to manifest it as rain falling from the sky. It just goes directly into the soil, right to their roots, right where they need it, and sustains them, and they don't die. And everyone would be like, wow, like we thought these trees would die of drought, and somehow, magically, they are still here. And you'd be like, I manifested a bunch of water into their root system so they stay alive. These are the types of things that you can do with the manifestation of S-matter, or matter that responds directly to your mind. It's huge empowerment. It's also huge responsibility because, of course, we want to manifest the things that conform to higher intelligent divine patterns in the ways that they will actually improve the fabric of reality. And we don't do this for mere self-service. Self-service would be like if you were like, I'm going to manifest a chunk of gold. I joke about this, like being a pirate, like Yarg matey, I will manifest my chunk of gold and take it to yon pawn shop, and then I will buy my gold, and then I will have money, and then I will spend at the grocery store, like, because that would be the most expensive piece of gold that you could ever manifest. It wouldn't just be worth whatever, $1,000. It would be worth 10 million, billion, gazillion dollars, because it's made out of all of these pieces of force fields from all of these different places amalgamated into an actual gold nugget. Like, we don't create this matter for materialistic purposes. We create it for miraculous purposes, for inexplicable, positive, uplifting ways of rearranging reality. That is what I talk about, making something new on the menu. When you look at this state of DNA and the state of events and that way that they are presently structured, and you're like, I don't like any of these events, because in these events, like, that guy's going to die of an aortal aneurysm, those trees are going to die because there wasn't enough water in the desert, and then Aurora doesn't have her project with tiny screws, and none of these are good. But in these better reality structures, you're like, that guy's heart got magically fixed up, these plants got magically watered, and Aurora got that tiny screw that she needed for that project. And that puts us on these optimum timelines. And those are really just mundane examples of what we can do when we can start to create matter with our minds. So this manifestation of inside to outside and outside to inside, and what's happening on a DNA level, is so much more than just your minimum expectations. Like I stopped and I bobbled there because I didn't want to sound critical of you, because you can only imagine like a PB&J sandwich, and that's not your fault. Like, that is, for you, that is gourmet food, because that's the best that you've ever had, and that's on the menu of life. You have only ever really had very mundane, minimal options available to you. And I'm trying to tell you about like caviar and filet mignon and the best desserts that you can possibly have, and what can really be on the menu in life, just to plant a seed. Like, you've never even really tasted these foods, but I just want you to know that those foods exist, and that is what you're trying to express. So, I mean, I know I went a little bit far afield from responding to Michelangelo's questions. The empowerment is about making matter with your mind. Some of this I focus on with healing of personal body structures and other people's body structures, but also this extends to many other things. We would just call it miraculous. In the human materialistic sense, it could only be described as miraculous or deus ex machina. The hand of God reaches out and magically changes the narrative of your life. But what really is happening is you grab the quill pen and you write a new story in the DNA of your life and of all of our lives, and that creates a complete shift. And I also want you to know that the narrative that you write must be non-arbitrary. You gotta do the long division. You gotta do some math. When you grab that quill pen, you're gonna have to be like, okay, this is the new story, blah, 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 and then this guy's got aorta is fine. And then you have to do the math, which means that you have to show, like, how did that happen, and how did these things get restructured? Because otherwise it would be very blithe and reductionist, just be like, oh yes, like, let them eat cake, and then everybody was happy, and then everybody was fine, and then everybody danced in the sun. The end. And it's like, okay, like, that's great, but we have to do the math and actually see how this all fits together. So just like you get an accounting at the end of your life on the red clipboard, when you're doing lasagna, you must account for the causality factors of all the things that you're trying to make happen, and make sure that nothing is in conflict and everything goes in the direction that is sustained by these assertions and by these patterns. All right, so Pedro says, so the FRL may not change our physical body, but it can reduce the friction so we can move more freely in time. I would say the FRL will change your physical body, but it will change your physical body by having you change timelines from a timeline where you might be shaped like this into a timeline where you're shaped like this. And that change might not be instantaneous. For me, it was over 20 years, and I did notice incremental shifts at times, but for me it was always a consistent shifting in the capability level and structuring of my body. And I definitely see that as changing timelines onto this timeline now where I can do everything. Like, I used to be on timelines where I didn't drive very much because I had seizures and my eyesight wasn't that good. My eyesight and my seizures got better. I'm now on timelines where I drive a lot, but all of that happened through the transportation of my self-state from one reality to another using the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. Yeah, you got it, Michael, absolutely. So, because I don't want you guys to think like, because here, many people in this world think the solution is Calgon, take me away. I want to die, get out of my body, because my body is like so old and wrinkly and doesn't feel that good anymore. I just want a new body, and like getting a new car. But I'm telling you, you cannot just simply go down to like the new body dealership and be like, I want to trade in the old car and get a new car, and I want it to be red, and then make it be that. Like that is not what we are actually here to do. We are definitely here to improve and heal the bodies that we have. So one of the first things that you want to do in transforming on a genetic level is to remove the limitations that say that you can't heal your body. It's very big. Like, how come that guy's aorta had a hole in it in the first place? How come he couldn't just heal his body? We all have amazing healing capabilities. How come that guy didn't heal his heart? And then, because you'd say like the miracle is like that someone else's mind could create matter and be like, let's just stick some clay, like that ShamWow commercial, like, got a leak? ShamWow, put a sticker on that sucker. Put a sticker on that sucker's heart, and he will be fixed up, and he won't have any more leakage. Like, It's about, why did he have leakage in the first place? How come he didn't ShamWow his own heart? How come he needed someone else to do this? We need to examine what is the origin of disease or non-perfect body shape in our world. And it's not, when I say non-perfect body shape, please know I'm not just talking about like being an Instagram model or something like that. I'm really talking about like your health and your vitality. And how did we ever not be in states of pure, perfect health and vitality? How did we ever manifest disease in any level? And then what do we need to do to change to manifest not only the healing of that particular disease, but the optimum state of health? And Lasagne is when you embody the optimum state of health, this is how you continue to move through time. And your body regenerates and you create new cellular structures and you're energized to continue to do things that would seem impossible. That is through, writing a new story, or sorry if my mind wandered for a moment there. It is, because I wanted to make a distinction of like what it is not versus what it is. You have a lot of genetic implantations that say you will grow old and die. When you Lasagne, you can remove those genetic implantations. But you might also have implantations of particular diseases that are like, you will have a problem with diabetes and blood sugar, and you can change those challenges in your body. But also, you might have to change your diet and not eat a lot of chocolate cake or whatever it is, cheesecake or something like that. Like, it's about more than just saying, let me hack my DNA so that then I can eat as much chocolate cake as I want to and not get diabetes. You do both things. You transform the truthfulness of what your DNA is writing in a story of time about you, but you also do the behaviors and the activities that are life-affirming behaviors and activities. So I definitely do that in my own body. I do the dance, but I also do the stuff. And sometimes the stuff is eating particular foods or taking particular supplements or doing particular aspects of body care and maintenance that give my body longevity and make it possible for me to do these things. So people that take my Tuesday morning class, like you guys already know, I do a whole like stretching and warm-up routine and all of these things that have really helped me over many years to get my body into more alignment. And I do them every day. And if I don't do them every day, like my body doesn't feel as good as it could. Like, you do the stuff. This is not like magic wand level of manifestation. We're kind of like, like whatever, Cinderella, bibbidi bobbidi boo, kapow, hooray, I'm Cinderella, now I'm beautiful and perfect and great. Like, that is not what we're talking about. But it is magic wand that would be like, wow, if you didn't have the capacity to do certain things or even do certain levels of self-care and body cultivation to gain that capacity, to gain the capacity to have more movement or more capability. But just moving back to the key points is essentially being in the moment now, because we can't be only focused on a goal-oriented moment. And that is important expectation, because as a collective we can't always be focused on like one day we're going to have ascension, and then after that everything is going to be great, but up until that time things will be generally crappy, so we'll only be happy when. We can't live like that. We have to be happy now. In each one of our bodies we have to be happy and expansive now. In our human culture we have to be happy and expansive now, and then also on a larger galactic level. But you do have to work in order to improve things. And knowing that you're working and putting forth efforts every day to improve things, it brings you to your goal. So this is important, because when you Lasagne, you're doing two things. You are erasing and sending to entropy a lot of stuff that shouldn't be there. That's the equivalent of like scrubbing the toilet. It's not that much fun. You're like, oh, chores. This doesn't exist. All this stuff doesn't exist. Blah, blah, blah. But you have to balance out scrubbing the toilet and sending stuff to entropy that shouldn't be in existence, make it go bye-bye, with energizing the stuff that you do want. That's manifesting and painting with your mind the stuff that you do want to exist. So you must speak into existence, affirm, envision, and energize the reality structures you want to exist. We're unmaking the aspects of unhealth. We're unmaking aspects of disease and decrepitude. But what are we placing in its place, or what is the replacement for it? It are levels of health and vitality, being able to do all the things that you would like to do, feeling expansive, and most importantly, feelings of celebration and comfort in the body. And if I can get to one thing, like the feeling state that you're trying to cultivate is celebration and comfort. So when I talk about, people that are like, do the splits in 30 days, well, then you have to wait 30 days for celebration and comfort. Or you'll be allowed to celebrate and be comfortable when you lose 5 pounds, or when you can do those handstands, or when you can do this, or when you can do that. And I'm like, no, those are all like too far in the future, and you need to do celebration and comfort now. And in our human collective, like, we will have a very exalted time that will be like a paradise state, but I don't want you to be putting off your joy or the things that you can embrace in this moment, because that will happen a long time in the future, or however much time in the future. You have to find comfortable, good quality of life in this moment now. And then that's also how you bring things forward and make things more lasagna. So I'll just do a little bit more and then I've got to wrap things up. But things that optimize lasagna are actually comfortable environments. It's why I put things together in my retreats in the way that I do. It's why I structure my life in the way that I do. When people are in my Tuesday class, what do I do? Like, if it's wintertime, I make my house warm. Try to dance in optimum temperature environments. Have a space that is comfortable. So I put down my little dance space around me. I put on awesome music that I like. I definitely eat food so that I feel energized. I'm not, starved for a week and then trying to dance like the lasagna. Like, you must optimize your energy field and your environment so that you can do this spontaneous dance called the lasagna. The most expensive or rare thing that I need for my lasagna is unstructured time. I know, especially over the past several years, I've had my life be a lot more structured, where like I have different either scheduled work outside of my home or scheduled appointments or different things that I have to do. And it's actually hard when you want to do lasagna. It is a spontaneous dance, and you might be like the sun is perfect. I want to get outside and lasagna, but like, I have to make this phone call, or I have to take my car to the mechanic, or I have to do this thing, or I have to do this. It's challenging. So you have to have a balance right now. Don't throw your responsibilities out the window, but make yourself have some unstructured time. And unstructured time means like when I wake up today, like, there's no place that I have to go and nothing that I have to do at a particular time. And that is optimum for lasagna, because you will flow. And you will be like, well, now I feel hungry, I want to make some eggs. But now that I ate my food, now I'm feeling energized, I want to start my stretching. And now I want to listen to this song. And now I want to work on this project. Like, you don't have to plan out and schedule your whole day. You naturally flow from event to event. That is the greatest commodity. That's the most expensive thing you can possibly have in our world, which is not having to commodify your time. Even billionaires, these guys, they wear a suit and a tie and they have a job, and they're like, I gotta go to work, take care of my billions of dollars that I'm investing or whatever. They're like, their time is not their own. They're like, I'm late, I have to get places, I can't do stuff. They have a lot of money, but they do not have control over their time. So one of the greatest levels of abundance that you can cultivate in your life to be able to do more lasagna is unstructured time. And unstructured time does not mean time sitting doing nothing or sitting on the couch eating potato chips. It means that you simply don't have appointments and requirements, and then you are able to be free and in your flow state like a wild animal, moving from moment to moment, deciding what you want to do spontaneously. And those spontaneous feelings add up to lasagna. You're like, I'm feeling spontaneous and I want to do this, and then I feel like I want to do this, and I feel like I want to do this, and then the song comes on and you're like, dun dun, lasagna time, and then it's time to lasagna. So you optimize lasagna by giving yourself unstructured time. And also, I almost always have my lasagna dance mat here on the ground so that I am ready to lasagna at a moment's notice. If you have to be like, well, I want a lasagna, but first I have to like move the couch, roll up the carpet, put down this whole thing. Like, if you're going to do that, then it's like the lasagna is just going to evaporate. You're like, okay, I'm finally ready to lasagna. And then it's going to be like, that was like 10 minutes ago or 10 hours ago. Optimize your life so that you can either have your lasagna space set up, or you can just put down your mat, 1, 2, 3, boom, 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 and be like, time for lasagna. because the mood passes. Just like being with a lover. You're like, now is the time. Like, I'm feeling it. And then if you're like, oh, wait, let's just watch this movie first. Then let's do this. Then let's clean up the kitchen. Then let's do this. It's like, it just totally takes you out of the mood and it deprioritizes the sacred experience that you're doing. And lasagna is spontaneous for a reason. You are connecting your personal dance to a much, much larger energetic and time-based infrastructure. You feel like you need to spontaneously lasagna because the world needs you to lasagna in that moment. And what if you're at work? I've had this opportunity many times. I'm like, I need to lasagna so bad, but I'm at work. What do I do? Like, it was really hard. So that's why in every way that I possibly can, I try to set up my life so that I have minimally structured time commitments and I'm able to follow my spontaneous lasagna requirements from moment to moment because I consider that to be my responsibility to the fabric of space-time. That matters much, much more than any human-centered money-earning creation or opportunity. And that is also why I respect the work of Jose Arguelles, who coined the term time is art, that you would never sell your time for money because you have to do what you need to do in each moment as an artistic expression. So being completely uncompromising about the artistic expression of each moment. Of course, many people, if you did that, you would starve to death. People would be like, oh, like clearly you did not arrive to your work on time or at all. You clearly do not want this salaried position. You may now go home with no food and no money. And you feel like, well, that's great, because now I have tons of time to lasagna. Like, truly, I don't want that to happen to you, which is why I bring it forward with so much comedic accuracy. You must balance out these things. So that is what I do. I have some unstructured time, and I have some structured time. So please do something similar in your own life, where you've got some unstructured time, where you don't have any particular time commitments, and where you can be optimum lasagna. And of course, at my retreats, the whole entire thing is that. And that is how I schedule or loosely structure what we're going to do. So there we have various activities that we will be doing, but we're always focused on the generating the spontaneity factor for being able to lasagna at any time. Try to do that in your own life as much as you possibly can. Okay? So questions, comments, or anything else you'd like to say in the moment. Otherwise, the sun is going down and it's just about time for me to take Cheeky to get some exercise outside or something that she needs before we go to bed tonight. So thank you very much, everyone. This is not the last time that I'll talk about what lasagna is and how it relates specifically to DNA, because it's a big topic. It's really the focus of what this class is really all about. Okay, just checking to see if there's any more questions or comments. Thank you so very much. Thank you, as always, for being amazing people, and being of the highest caliber, and taking time to be able to connect with me in these long sharings that I have. Oh, we do have a question. There's a beautiful comment, actually. Joyce says, thank you, love you, Professor. Thank you so much. Love received. Thank you for being such a wonderful student. I'm always so happy to see you here in class. So I'm very pleased, of course. Thank you for everyone who's able to come here and be here during the moment of these recordings. And I appreciate everyone. People have commitments and time schedule commitments. Thank you for the people who couldn't be here during class, but who are able to tune in afterwards. And of course, just a reminder, you can find out all of the details about my upcoming retreat in the description comments, and you can put in your application. And I say, please, if you're interested, please sign up now, because we are getting a lot of momentum. It sounds super exciting and really wonderful. Another comment says, lots and lots of thanks and love to all of you. Thank you so much, Caroline. Very, very excited. Good. And yes, I think that our world is we're always in levels of turmoil. We really haven't had like a normal life for many, many years. But just try, when you're lasagna-ing, to move towards levels of positivity. Please know that positivity and goodness exists. You can access it. You can create and generate these beautiful meals on the menu better than anything that has ever been presented to you before. I'm here to kind of tell you, like, you want to order the good stuff off the menu. Keep envisioning that. Keep envisioning and ordering the best stuff off of the menu. Thank you, Pedro. Pedro says, love the lasagna. Thank you, and so much love back to you. Okay. Have a beautiful night, everyone. Thank you so much.